Yes, y'all. Welcome to the Tattered Map, a carefully curated conspiracy. It is I, Merc, and special guest. And how's everybody doing today? Ooh, boy. Ooh, I didn't test us getting in frame yet. Here, scoot a little closer to me.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. All right.
Will you,
Oh, yeah, pull that mic up.
say, will you set that up so it's
Get that bad boy.
over on this fella here so I can read it?
Faux show.
Because, you know me, I'm Mr. Notes.
I gotcha. Let's see here. Boom. There we go. Boom. All right.
Okay.
Oh, let me, boom. So you guys can kind of see the source. We got special guest reading from here.
Yeah, this is sort of a thing I threw together last night, and it's a sort of a copy-paste pastiche of a bunch of stuff and some written material between it. Anyway, it's an overview of the most miserable subject I've ever read about that ties... I'm not going to tell you it ties directly to the Savile scandal.
1 second, let me do some of the volume real quick, just so we're not getting stepped on by the Musax. I might need to go down just
There
a
we go.
little bit more on that business. There we go, baby. Sorry.
But yeah, it's a tale of spies and the members of parliament and the Queen's butler.
Oh.
And a group that was called PIE, or the Pedophile Information Exchange.
Whoa.
And that was not a law enforcement group. This and next week's will probably be, to my mind, the most miserable shit I have to cover while doing all of this. I'm probably not likely to return to this particular type of subject because it is astoundingly demoralizing to me. But I'd like to prove that these sort of things do happen. So when you see in the United States things like Pizzagate or QAnon or any of those things, the basis in reality of the likelihood of that sort of stuff happening, well, things like that have occurred. Like I'm not saying that. I'm not saying any of the specifics of that. Like, I'm not saying that they were trying to harvest organs or harvest adrenaline or anything like that out of people. Like, I'm not, none of those specifics.
Yeah.
I really have looked at all of those conspiracies and believe that they're actually a form of muddying the waters, so it's harder to find this type of information.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, this is an example of that and how it can be tied to people high up in governments, NATO governments specifically. And that ties back to our whole concept of these stay-behind armies and how they organize them. And when I say it's an army, the Air Force is 90% logistics. Right?
Yeah.
90% of the people in the U.S. Air Force just go do a job every day that's basically support. It's not like they're out fighting. Even the Army is mostly logistics. The Marines is mostly logistics. It's mostly back-end people. So armies need support, and that support has to be controlled. And a lot of times, blackmail's the best way to do it.
Whoa. Yeah. Compromising information.
And it can go really, really high. So in the early 80s, the government of the UK fell under suspicion, basically, of harboring a pedophile ring due to the exposure of a diplomat named Peter Heyman and his connection to this group, the Pedophile Information Exchange. The 70s is a weird time. And when I say that, like, you look at culture and you see things like the Rolling Stones or David Bowie were, like, all but bragging about sleeping with 14-year-olds. Right? Yeah. There was... in the U.S., Larry Flynt published a pornographic magazine called Chic. But there was also another competing magazine in Europe called Chic.
Oh.
And it was run by a guy who also ran a magazine of child pornography called Lolita.
Whoa. And
in the countries where that was legal, it was published, distributed. And I'm sure from those countries, a lot of it was harvested up and distributed to countries where it's illegal.
Bootlegged.
Yeah, basically bootlegged in, it made people a ton of money, and also the people involved in producing it, one can assume were exactly the folks that are going to be involved in these types of blackmail.
Well, we've talked before on this show in particular about how sometimes these people with these established kinds of like means of export or import typically get into some kind of black market something.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. Well,
Like,
the reason that I bring all this up is because this pedophile information exchange group would, in magazines like that and other magazines, that were in some places being legally distributed, which allows them to set up a worldwide distribution network for these sort of things. They take out ads. And like it ran from 74 to 84.
Whoa. A whole decade?
Yeah, a whole decade.
Whoa.
A whole decade. It was still running during the time period that we're talking about. So those suspicions basically resurfaced recently under Savile. People have been talking about these dossiers. They were put together by conservative MP Jeffrey Dickens, and then later, about 5-7 years later, another one by Labor MP Barbara Castle. And they supposedly named the key people involved in the ring.
Okay.
And we'll get to the Castle dossier next week, which is apparently made up mostly of some of these files from the Dickens dossier. So, it all goes back to a guy named Peter Heyman. In 78, he was investigated as a result of the discovery on a bus of a package containing obscene photographs that had been addressed to a man named Peter Henderson. It was just left on a bus.
Whoa.
So police searched the flat in West London associated the package was addressed to. They found 45 volumes of material, diaries apparently, detailing the sexual exploits and fantasies of this Henderson guy. So during the search, Henderson shows up, reveals his true name to be Peter Heyman, who was the former High Commissioner to Canada at that point. Right? He had just retired, as I understand.
Yeah.
They also found out that he was a member of PI, the Pedophile Information Exchange.
Ooh.
And that he regularly corresponded with him, sent obscene photographs through the mail constantly, which is illegal under the laws.
Yeah. So they busted him on
He referred to his group of people as the Circle, and he was also a senior MI6 operative. Now, I've got a ton of links down in the description, and we'll get to some of those links after I do all the talking. But yeah, it's been revealed that he worked for MI6. He was very high up. The full name of the file that was found is called Prim 19/588 Security. Sir Peter Heyman allegations against former public official of unnatural sexual proclivities, security aspects. And it was prepared for Margaret Thatcher.
Whoa. So the Thatcher administration, yo.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So in the Scotland Yard Obscene Publications Department report on Heyman's activities, the officer wrote, quote, "The sheer filth spread far and wide by him, and particularly its content with regard to the sexual and physical abuse of children, must place him in the category of being one of the worst offenders in relation to sending obscene materials through the post."
Whoa.
These...
So, okay.
Yeah, let's...
What happened to him?
Well...
I know you're getting to it. I just like, well, surely... I just, in my head, that's all I can think is like, fuck, it's the Thatcher administration.
Well, despite the investigation,
shit, right?
He wasn't charged with any crime. It resurfaced in 81 when Dickens denounced Heyman as a pedophile in Parliament, calling on the Attorney General to pursue a prosecution. From a news report, it said, the name of Sir Peter Heyman, a former High Commissioner in Canada, was revealed, despite strong evidence from the Attorney General, in strong advice from the Attorney. So despite advice from the Attorney General, his name was released in 2 parliamentary questions tabled by Conservative MP Mr. Geoffrey Dickens. They asked if Sir Peter was to be prosecuted for sending pornographic material through the mail and if security implications raised by his diaries will be investigated. So this was part of a transcript that I'm reading from news. I didn't edit it as I should have. Liberal leader Mr. David Steele voiced what appeared to be the feelings of many members of the House when he suggested to the Speaker that the use of parliamentary privilege was a very dubious precedent. So they're like, how dare you bring this up in Parliament?
Okay.
Right?
How dare you
disgrace
this?
He's a member of the House of Lords. Well, the naming of Sir Peter Heyman on the Commons Order paper will inevitably raise questions as to whether a man with a distinguished career in diplomatic service could have become a potential target for blackmail. Now, let's keep in mind the time period we're talking about with these stay-behind armies starting to be created through like MK Ultra and the like. It's basically from 1950 on.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And our biggest worry has to do, and keep in mind, NATO works with us as near as I can tell on this. That's as near as I can figure it out. This is a CIA-led NATO operation.
So by the by the 50s, it's that they've taken this repugnant ideology thing.
Like that's when
they've
start
done the stay behind army concept, and now it's a full-on operation.
Well, it's based on Nazi werewolves. That's what they call them.
Gotcha.
Right,
So
which
it's
was
a post-paperclip like CIA ran Cold War. Starting, you know what I mean? Starting.
Okay, so let's listen.
Right?
Let's hear what this dude was involved with. In the 50s, he served on the British delegation to NATO. In 64, he was deputy commandant to the British military government in West Berlin. By 70, he submitted his credentials to Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau as the new High Commissioner, which he remained at until he retired in 74, right before they busted him.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Fuck. He fell up.
police were led to Sir Peter's London flat after they found a package of pornography which had been left on a bus. From material discovered at the flat, police prepared a case which was forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Sir Thomas Heatherton, who decided against prosecution because there was no question of financial gain or sending material to people who didn't want it.
Yeah.
So he didn't get prosecuted because he didn't make any money and nobody didn't ask for it. MP Geoffrey Dickens said one of the reasons he'd named Sir Peter in Parliament was to remove the possibility of future blackmail.
Oh shit! He admitted it. Like that's
Well,
the whole reason he's
yeah,
there.
well, he's
to-
like, look,
to
I-
stop us getting blackmailed.
Yeah. So in the
Yeah.
next several years, Dickens went on to assemble 2 dossiers and submit them to the Home Secretary Leon Britton in 1983 and 84, urging him to take action against prominent pedophiles and pedophile groups.
Whoa.
One of the cases Dickens brought to Leon Britton was the allegation that a 16-year-old boy working in the kitchens of Buckingham Palace had been groomed and sexually exploited there by a group of older men. In Britton's reply to Dickens, he ruled out the possibility of investigating the palace allegation. Okay, so now we get to the former royal butler of the Queen in 2008, Paul Kidd, who was jailed for 6 counts of sexual activity with a child and for making indecent images of children. Paul Kidd befriended his first victim in 1973. At the time, Kidd was 20 and the abuse began the following year when the boy was 14.
Whoa.
During the period of abuse, Kidd even took the boy to a royal tea party at Clarence House and introduced him to the Queen Mother as a friend. Kidd met his next victim in 1981. Again, the boy was 14 years old when the abuse started. The most recent period of abuse began in 2005. Again, the boy was 14 years old. Dickens was particularly concerned about the pedophile information exchange, petitioning Leon Britton to shut the organization down. PI was a pro-pedophilia activist group formed in '74 and had campaigned for lowering the age of consent to 4 years old. Now let that sink the fuck in.
Whoa.
Now I told you,
Whoa.
I'm about to bust up just reading this shit.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
And like I said, links in the bottom. We're gonna go through the links after this bit.
This goes right to the Queen Mother herself in that one story. Like, how do you take these kids to these parties? This is crazy.
Now let's
The
get it even.
aristocracy's normalized this. Like,
Now where do the spies come in? So following the Peter Heyman incident, the issue of Pi's connections to the government came up again in '82. A year later, Jeffrey Prime, a former agent of GCHQ's J Division, responsible for Russian signals intelligence, had been convicted for spying for the KGB. During the search of Prime's home, police found copies of the Pi magazine, as well as a set of over 2,000 index cards detailing the daily routines of a host of underage girls, including when they will be left alone at home.
Whoa.
If I do a third part, it'll be on the Dutroux affair, and you see this type of thing happen again.
Yeah.
Prime pled guilty to the 3 counts of sexual offenses against children. Shortly after Prime's conviction, Geoffrey Dickens asked the then Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, whether Prime's membership of Pi had been brought to the attention of the security services. Thatcher denied any link between Pi and Prime, claiming the reports of Pi material being found in Prime's garage were false. Although Pi was disbanded in '84, the prominent people allegedly listed in Dickens Dossiers were not exposed.
Oh.
In 2013, an investigation into the fate of the dossiers was conducted, examining Home Office files from '79 to '99. The review concluded that no trace of the dossiers passed to Leon Britton remained in the files. The initial search of the Home Office records identified 100 files with possible links to Dickens' claims. Of those 101, 91 had already been destroyed or were unable to be located. Reference to Despite the failure to locate the dossiers, other information regarding similar concerns raised by Dickens during his career was found. References to child abuse occult societies and the presence of Children of God cult in the UK appeared in the examination of the records. In 2020, Derek Lincoln, a former house shepherd of the Children of God cult, was imprisoned for the rape of 2 underage girls. Lincoln is suspected of abusing over a dozen children throughout the UK between 89 and 96. In the slew of new police investigations into historic child abuse since the death of Savile, Leon Britton himself became a suspect, leading to speculation that he had deliberately suppressed the information handed to him by Jeffrey Dickens. In the investigation into the Elm Guest House allegations, Leon Britton appeared in the reports related to Operation Hedgerow, the police operation mounted in the late 80s that led to the arrest and conviction of Colin Peters. Peters was a member of a pedophile ring and a Foreign Office barrister. 2 police officers on surveillance duties for Operation Hedgerow claimed the investigation was prematurely shut down due to Leon Britton turning up at one of the sites under surveillance. So that's the data dump for today, guys, because I can only do about this much of that. Like, we can talk about it, but...
Yeah, that's a rough one.
I
mean, that's a big one.
And it's a lot of information all close together, and links in description.
Oh, yeah. Sources cited. Oh, man. There's not a whole lot of questions I have, just more of a hole where I feel like justice should have happened.
Yes. No, this has been me for like the last 2 weeks, sort of working on this. And it's so obvious, especially in light of what was going on with Savile, and it's so bizarre that even despite everything we hear over here and the concerns that people have, no one over here ever talks about Savile.
I didn't think I'd find today a new reason to hate the Thatcher administration.
Right?
Like, there's a lot of reasons you could hate the Thatcher administration. This is one of those reasons.
Yeah. Like, I'm over here about shaking and my heartbeat's reading 108.
It's one of those,
and I rest at 58.
Oh, it's one of those that's got me, like, shooketh, for sure. Goodness.
It's,
Do you think, okay, when Thatcher says that there is no connection between pi and prime, I mean, that's...
It sounds like there isn't because they erased the connection.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And it sounds like pi may have been some sort of bizarro Fast and Furious to weed out people who were compromised, maybe?
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah. Savile was alive during this.
Yeah, the whole time.
Everyone brings up Savile.
The whole time.
And that's one of those that's like... makes me equally shaky with, like, there's a hole in justice. There was no justice done. There's a bunch of kids who, you know...
Yeah.
The craziest story to me is that this kind of proves that even within the Downton Abbey-esque lifestyle of the people who are raised, basically, to be the staff at Buckingham Palace, within that structure are things that mirror other Orthodox structures where you have this child abuse.
Well, aren't they the head of a church?
Male child abuse. It is. It's the Church of England's kitchen.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean, well, and it's generational, and it's a systemic issue. I wonder, reading these stories, what was Paul Kidd's life like?
Yeah. Well, I would be very surprised to not find that Paul Kidd had probably been abused since he was a child.
See, I wonder how far back some of this goes.
I would not be surprised to find out that it was not just intentionally institutional.
Yeah, intentionally institutional. To keep it, I don't know, going on.
Because then you can at any point make sure you have even more compromising information on your staff than they could be compromised with.
Yeah.
So that hopefully they will come to you if someone tries to compromise them.
Yeah.
And in many cases, that's how the espionage game works.
Yeah.
It's not nice people and it's not James Bond.
Yeah.
It's people getting leverage because they've got very mean goals and they don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
Spying's all about seeing what's not supposed to be seen and hiding what's not supposed to be seen. That's espionage and counterintelligence.
Yeah. Debbie says, I think Lady Di found out like about Savile and probably some of this stuff. Well, what happened?
I would not be surprised.
I hate to go back in time, but the Prince Philip, like the Profumo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like...
The Profumo affair that supposedly Marianne McLean's attached to, the head of the Process Church.
The head of the Process Church. Like, this is the place to kind of talk about that, I think.
Look, we learned to spy in the 40s from the British.
Yeah. Everything we have is a mock-up.
Like, they taught us that in, like, 1942 at Camp X.
Oh, that's,
when they were teaching Al Hubbard.
They sure the fuck did.
And George White.
Man. I think Lady Di, found out about a bunch of stuff, and probably, it sounds like there's things that you can walk in on. I think now in a whole different way about that video that came out forever ago. I don't know if it's still out there. That, like, barely dressed kid jumping out of one of the windows at Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
What the fuck was that video?
What the fuck was that?
Where was what the hell?
In a place that should be, you would think, the most secure place in all of England. How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, we know that dude that broke in on the Queen, like, forever ago.
Oh,
like during the Thatcher administration, it's like, yeah, man, that's a rough one. And okay, I want to try to talk about this story's relationship to Stay Behind Armies and kind of our overall theme of the Tattered Map.
Right. Well, like I said, logistically, it makes sense just to set up these blackmail operations, right? Yeah. But a lot of times these blackmail operations, and all of this ties into, to my mind, and from what I've been seeing, you guys want to know? Michelle O'Rourke says, you guys want to know something about Mr. Walt Disney himself was an informant for the FBI. I believe that, but I also suspect Walt Disney was also Walter Cronkite. So it's me. Let me just throw that credibility right out the window, y'all. Sources in comments or in description.
Yeah. He might be Walter Cronkite. I say jury's out.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Di knew something, and they had her and Dodi Fayed killed just to make sure there couldn't be a leak.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's what I think happened. Not just a leak on that. I think there was a lot of things going on. I think Diana made more than one misstep when fucking around with what they call their family, the firm.
Yeah.
She fucked around and got on the wrong side of the firm. And I think there were people that tried to warn her, people like Fergie, people like Prince Philip, because they've been on the wrong side of the firm.
Yeah.
And Philip knows from experience exactly how you have to live your life after you've been on the wrong side of it.
Well, what my suspicion right now is that the royal family, one, is going to make sure that England controls what England historically controlled.
Yeah.
And two, that the royal family's in power, even if they in no way seem in power. Hell, even if they officially say they've disbanded in every meaningful sense. Yeah. They're going to make sure they still have that control and power through their networks. And if a time comes back that, look, monarchies fall, monarchies re-rise. That's something throughout history. And if they see a fall coming, they put things in place, like Stay Behind Armies, to ensure that they can create a continuance of lineage when they restart the monarchy later in the midst of chaos.
And I'm seeing now, how do you get democratically elected people who might come from nowhere, who show up in the government sphere, right? How do you get them on board with this generational plan, this weird plan?
Yeah.
You blackmail them into it.
Yeah, one way or another. You blackmail them, or you threaten them, or you blackmail someone associated with them.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't blackmail them, but you blackmail their brother.
Yeah. Today we're showing off an incredibly powerful means of control that aristocracy has obviously been using, holding over people's heads. And there's been a separate organization outside of their governance that's been doing the same thing.
Yes.
The same information.
And it seems aided by our CIA, who was functionally set up originally as the OSS, which was trained by the British intelligence services.
Yeah.
The SOE, I believe, Special Operations Executive.
Yeah. Fuck. Why did we let that? Why'd they let that? SOE, is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, did they let that go? That's a sick ass abbreviation.
Yeah, no, the SOE is still there.
Sidebar,
No, like, hey, don't mess with them.
Oh shit.
Yeah, no, like, look, man, like in America, we like to make fun of England for obvious reasons, but. Don't mess with Brit Special Forces. Just like don't mess with the Gurkhas.
No,
like they are really good at what they do. You don't want to mess with Marines either. Just run of the mill British Marines, U.S. Marines. Don't. It's a mistake.
Israelis that know Krav Maga.
So most of them.
Most Israelis, if they did their military time, they probably know Krav Maga. Which is, yeah.
But. So no, something to be seen dropped with the royal family.
Yeah. Something does seem kind of well, at least in the inner circle, you know what I'm saying? Like that fame, there's something, and it's generational. I wonder how long it's fucking been there.
Well, I want you to keep in mind, we're going to get to another guy eventually who ran a group called The Circle, but that's some shows out. But keep in mind, he refers to his group as The Circle. That's a theme that keeps popping up.
Like the Round Table.
Yeah.
Like there's this almost Arthurian society attack, like this concept. Yeah. Huh.
Well, they get a lot of it from France.
Okay.
Like, remember, espionage is a French word.
Yeah.
And most of your combat terms are French, too. Before the French started losing a lot of wars, they won a double fuck ton of them.
Yeah, they sure fucking did. And the Napoleonic Wars were some of the, before World War One, that was...
France never truly, to my mind, developed the types of military forces in general that most other countries did. But that one of the reasons why is France is so good at playing the geopolitical and the espionage game that they've been able to rely on that. But dealing with the changing world and the fact that they were supposed to be France, but we're still acting like a colonial empire was really hard. That's why they had that revolution in '68.
Yeah. Deb asked if Robert Maxwell was involved in this situation. I know he worked in Parliament and owned most papers here, and he was a spy.
I want to find out, and that's something I've been looking for a link for, but I spent so much time just getting the players together on this. That if I find it, I will, and I think if I do find it, I'll find it as a link through the infamous mercenary Mad Mike Hoare.
I bet you'll find a connection to Maxwell.
Because
whether he was involved in it or not, I don't know. But I bet you'll find that he was helping.
What you have to understand about England during this time period is that they're just shortly off of fucking rationing from World War II.
Oh yeah,
you got me.
Yeah, this is Thatcher trying to build up an independent.
And the era pre-Thatcher. Before even Thatcher gets in, England is needing money any way it can get it. That's why it's trying to tax the stones so hard. Yep. But also, it said, you know what our new job is? Mercenarydom. And yeah, the Brits tried to become arms dealers. They weren't half bad at being arms dealers, honestly. And their whole deal was they'd sell a country arms and then stock it with their own soldiers to operate it until those people were trained. But they also legalized fucking basically. They allowed mercenaries to happen. And this Irish dude, Mad Mike Hoare. Man, he was the guy. He didn't like to be called a mercenary. He preferred soldier of fortune.
Well, yeah.
And yet, like if that Warren Zevon doc that I linked had the whole thing on him.
And it's funny you bring that up again. You said Scandinavian. I can't help but think again like the deep Scandinavian Viking roots in England.
Oh yeah,
and just how they, if you look at it anthropologically, I got a little bit of a chuckle. Like I felt like I saw a relative's kid. And it looked just fucking like them.
Right.
When you said England was like hiring out its mercenaries, I'm like, yeah, like the Scottish during the Ottoman invasion of Byzantine. Also like the Vikings during any time.
Hey, the Irish, man. Yeah. He called his group the Wild Geese. And it was a reference to Irish in the past having gone and fought as mercenaries.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So he got together, like his group in the 60s was tromping all over Africa.
And it's in homage to the way,
and sometimes working counter to the CIA, right? So counter to this NATO strategy.
Yeah,
you got me. which seems really weird that they would allow that to happen. But if they're trying to have a controlled opposition while building up spy information networks of data, it makes a bizarre form of sense to make some squads to fight against you.
Yeah.
Because they'll be friends with your enemies.
I used to buy that mag. What happened to it? Soldier of Fortune.
Soldier of Fortune went under in the digital era. It went to, I want to say, to digital until 2008, but it might have gone out by 2003. I, too, as a child, was a Soldier of Fortune reader.
Yeah.
Soldier of Fortune, in many ways, was basically set up as a means to recruit mercenaries to go fight in Rhodesia in the 70s.
Special guest used to subscribe to a magazine you'd bring into the shop where we worked at together, and it was, what was it called?
Oh, The Backwoodsman?
The Backwoodsman.
Yeah, dude, I've got a 10-year run of that shit.
That's a sick magazine.
They put out one every other month, and it's just like, you want to know how to survive in the woods? Well, here's a bunch of old-timey knowledge written by old coots.
It feels like it's like you brought me in, like you went back in time and grabbed a fresh off the press magazine, and
right.
Like it's even done in an old school way where I'm like, I fucking love this.
Now, Rich Buddy, if you want to know what happened to Soldier of Fortune, what you need to do is look up the story of Lake City Quiet Pills.
Oh fuck yeah!
Soldier of Fortune, like those types of groups don't use the backs of magazines anymore because all of the world, including Africa, where they're recruiting, has the internet.
Yeah.
So they just set up weird little message boards that don't seem associated to what they advertise.
Which led to a lot of that mercenary work ended up, like, I know in the U.S. ended up on like the dark net for a period of time, like the deep web. It ended up on shit like you could get it on Tor and then.
Well, you know,
hit that
most of the time, like, they're going to recruit you. Our biggest problem in Special Forces is keeping them.
Oh.
Because even if you're a top-tier Special Forces operator, you can be making $1,200 to $1,500 a day working for a private outfit.
Someone like my cousin might get you too. Like,
yeah,
hey,
no,
I might just double your salary to put security.
No, exactly. Like that, and that's like retention is a big. Is a big problem for us.
Yeah. That's
partially because we do have some of the best special forces in the world. I would say you could probably put them toe to toe against anybody else's special forces.
Yeah. What was the other one, the survival one that looks old? Magazine? I don't remember.
Oh no, I know the magazine Squidward's talking about, but I hadn't seen it in forever. I'm immediately thinking of the old Shotgun News.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre to say I read that as a kid. I was raised in a gun culture by people who were into guns, so they were laying around. You know, like.
Fuck! I got my grinder stuck again.
Oh, he said you just said. Oh, the one it was the Backwoodsman. Yeah, man, it's still being published. You can get a subscription right now. I used to just buy it off the newsstand.
Yeah, the Backwoodsman is sick as shit.
Yeah.
If that's the one you were talking about. Oh, the one that looks old. Yeah, Backwoodsman's cool as hell. The ads in the back are dope. They used to sell, like, you know, certain what era was it? There was like a clothing.
That was Jazz Townsend and Sons. Actually, that guy has a super popular YouTube channel now, just called Townsend's.
Really?
Yeah, dude. And he's like, "Hey, let me show you how to cook like it's the 1800s or the 1600s."
I think I've seen some of that shit.
Yeah.
Is he making like colonial recipes? And
He makes colonial recipes, and they make clothing.
Yeah. That actually kind of changed my scrambled egg game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I won't lie. Like between the old colonial like. Scrambled eggs and like Gordon Ramsay's recipe, like I do scrambled eggs different now.
Yeah,
you know.
But no, one thing I want to get back to, you know, everything we were talking about earlier, all that miserable shit that my brain's trying to get away from. So I had made a joke in Discord about like these concert tickets or whatever that were super overpriced. And I was like, oh, looks like a new Wayfair situation. And somebody wanted to know what that was, and I had to explain. A couple of years back, they thought that they were human trafficking online through this company called Wayfair.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been any evidence to really point to it, but it was a bizarre thing to see a $500 cabinet be listed for like $75,000 or, you know.
Some IKEA shit listed for tens of thousands.
And it played into that narrative, you know, but just in the limited amount that I learned in studying up on this, man, yeah, it seems like when those networks, especially when you study that Dutroux affair in Belgium, when those networks operate, that's precisely the sort of way that they go about hiding what they're doing. So that's why I don't get mad at the QAnoners. I'm just like, oh man, they tricked you. There's some shit out here like that that's happening, but it's probably not this. This is probably. I'm gonna tell you guys about something wild. I don't know if you should go look it up. Hold on.
Dancing during a bong rip. Trying not to think about pie. Sorry.
So, I enjoy this martial art called Sistema. It's like a Russian Krav Maga. I think it's fun because, one, the exercises and stuff have really helped my body. But two, I've done a fair amount of martial arts throughout my life, and the techniques that they talk about have helped me. But three, when you look at it or watch it, it seems like bullshit, and that's because there's an astounding amount of actual bullshit practitioners within that scene, okay?
Yeah.
But there's this group operating in Europe called OS Infinite, and they style it OS 8. And they have this whole, like, operating system manual for your mind that I downloaded. I've got as a PDF somewhere. And it seems like how to start your own cult.
Oh, shit.
And it uses Sistema principles, and it's sort of, it tells you to check out like Vasilyev's book, Let Every Breath, which is a breathing manual for understanding how to, breathing structures fundamental to Sistema practice. It's also a hypnotist I follow, this guy, David Snyder. He's a Sistema practitioner.
Okay.
And he might be a Russian agent, I don't know.
Oh, shit.
It might be.
All right.
But anyway, one of the things they talk about once they get to the end of it is like basically setting up a business. This is what made it so bizarre. And their idea was something they call venture fiction. And I think based on how I was reading it, venture fiction amounts to create a fake news site and write a bunch of fake news that's based loosely on real events.
Okay.
That's what I got from it. And I wonder how much of an effect that had, basically, currently, on diluting this sort of stuff. That in many cases, things like QAnon and the Comet Ping Pong things they looked at that WikiLeaks dump.
And they're specifically trying to
and they're trying to build a narrative so that they can write about it, so they can get ad clicks, and also so that, assuming, because this comes from Russia, that it's a Russian propaganda campaign, that they're trying to utilize that as a form of do-it-yourself cult induction on suggestible people, so they engage in the propaganda warfare against us as part of a hybrid warfare strategy, while both diluting the waters on those things and making the people involved in legit shit like this play hardcore defense.
They're taking the most juicy and expensive of details, the cocaine of details, if you will, and putting it into a little container with some water and some baking soda.
And a few other ingredients that they just added in.
Yeah, cooking it down, seemingly lowering the value of it to the public.
Yeah.
And then selling it in mass.
Yes. And I don't know that that's associated. I've never heard anybody talk about it. If you want to look up OS 8, you may find something. They may have scrubbed it because it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
I've still got my PDF, and I printed the PDF.
Yeah, I can't. The way they will take something like, they know that the public thinks where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right.
And so the best way to fucking fight the actual juicy details is to, like you're saying, flood it with bullshit.
So that when I think back to 9/11, when it's like, oh, well, there's a conspiracy theory. Oh, there's 3 conspiracy theories. Oh, there's 450 conspiracy theories, and they're all fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But regardless what happens, a significant amount of people stop trusting the government and media.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should have.
Yeah.
I'm just saying as a strategy, a hybrid warfare strategy from the people who functionally invented it, that seems like a smart one.
One of my favorite things, Grant, this is this is part of what we're talking about.
The show Happy, I think, totally ties to this.
Oh, word.
Like Happy, like any of our occult fans would probably really enjoy the show Happy.
Yeah.
It's got, what's his name? The guy everybody loves.
Stabler from SVU, but I forget his name.
Yeah, it's got him and Patton Oswalt playing his tulpa.
Yeah, he's got a tulpa in it. Dude.
And then there's a TV show host dude named Sunny Shines, and at one point when when his guards come out, it's got like the SS logo for Sunny Shines.
Oh shit!
Like, yeah, no, there's a lot of subtextual nods that seems like Morrison's trying to put in there, and this whole like weird type of Eyes Wide Shut club running everything, both in the government and media, is part of it. And that's a guy who's also studied conspiracy theories for forever. And I think that, that's his form of venture fiction.
He added something, Grant Morrison added something very interesting to the Batman mythos, and that's that Batman has an online sometimes Batman will further the conspiracy that Bruce Wayne is Batman to dilute the waters.
Right.
Like, he's at home sometimes, like, posting bullshit conspiracy with fake proof that's easily, like, fucking disproven that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like,
look, man, Shakespeare was basically shit soap operas.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris Maloney.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lux. Yeah. I have a family member in the CIA. When he left, a cop ran him over
with a van at 1 a.m. while he was jogging. Hey, look, be glad he didn't get hosed down by a Russian weapon.
Yeah, just like Alex Jones says happens. Yeah. A bassist I love a lot, Juan. He played for Marilyn Manson, bassist for Mars Volta. Got struck by a vehicle in a strange amount of time after Cedric Bixler Zavala, the lead singer of another band he was in, was getting harassed by Scientology.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think there's some kind of strange connection to it.
Well, like we could get into the other Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Or Al Hubbard.
Al Hubbard. Yeah.
Yeah. A guy who I think is just a character.
He's such a strange, bloated figure. His speaking voice, all of it sounds practiced. That's not an accent anyone has.
No. Nobody
speaks like L. Ron Hubbard.
Mm-mm.
No, the Cylons. They're in space. Like, nobody talks like that. Like, that's something you put on.
Yeah, Squidwin, it's got Chris Maloney, and it's called Happy, and it is a little miserable, also hilarious. I had a good time, and it made me feel dirty.
Yeah. Shout out my homie Sean, who worked on that show, I believe. Yeah, I have a friend that worked on Happy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, my friend Sean. He also used to work for BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah. It's a good show. It's I think in many ways it tackles sort of in a very roundabout way the things that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or I could be a schizophrenic. Meh.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's absolutely connected. There's
I'm just trying not to end up in the clown outfit, my man.
I think Grant Morrison knows a lot about how the industry works behind the scenes. I think he's been to some parties and shit he's alluding to in some of his stuff.
That's how a lot of this feels. It's also really weird how they offed Kubrick. You know what Kubrick's first film was?
I forget.
It's Lolita, the name of the porn magazine I was talking about.
Right.
Weird how Kubrick keeps tying back to all this. That could be because he's a culture creator, but he was obsessed with mirroring. So he might just be a culture reflector.
That's how it seems.
Might be.
Like, he's there to maybe even cryptically put things in that happened so the people who were there can high-five when they see it.
I think there's a cult of Hollywood that's as old as Manly P. Hall. I'm not saying that he's associated, but I'm saying that that's the age range we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it's functionally a form of theosophical astrology cult. And that it, too, got co-opted.
Yeah.
You got me? Why? When? Probably the Red Scare.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably the Red Scare. Yeah. Chris Maloney and called Happy. Yes. Great show. I haven't seen all of it. I've seen the first few episodes. Sean, it's not because I love you. Shout out, Sean. Anyway.
No, it really, it's worth your time.
Yeah.
It is definitely worth your time. And I don't sit around recommending much TV.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna throw a hoodie on real quick and load you this rip of CBD real quick. But I have a challenge for you in the middle of the Tattered Map. Plug Atlas VPN and BARKBOX after you take that hit. Do it immediately after you take the hit. It's the challenge. Plug the sponsors with weed on you. CBD on you, baby.
Brought to you by Atlas VPN and BARKBOX. For a VPN anywhere on the Atlas, and a box for your dog. But no, guys, I'm going to do another one on this. I think I've decided on air. I'm definitely going to tackle the Dutroux affair. And then this particular subject, I'm probably not coming back to. I think it's important to get out there. It's not a thing I want to spend a lot of my time personally focusing on. Because
A sad subject.
it's really demoralizing.
Yeah.
Like, for lack of a better... Like, for a very specific way to put it, it's very demoralizing. It's not just that it's happening. It's not just that it happens here. It's one of those things that... Well, like, I've got to cut, even though the Dutroux affair is in the 90s, which makes it a little later than I normally want to do this, I think that for the purposes of this whole segment, let's just go ahead and wrap it all up. Like the when I say this segment, everything related to using these types of networks to blackmail people.
Yeah.
But that one's really important because it's obviously continuing on far outside of, say, England.
Yeah.
Belgium is one of the most important places geopolitically.
Yeah.
And for a lot of reasons, but because they have very, very hard left and right organization, and they have dealt with an astounding amount of political violence associated with the Gladio stay-behind networks. Gladio's the Italian one, but I use it as a overall for all of Europe. It's just a good shorthand.
Yeah.
We'll get into the specific network names.
But I want to take the time in the program to thank you for doing the incredibly emotionally exhausting work of researching and bringing us this subject. Today you talked about just bringing the subject of Pi, the pedophile information exchange.
Well, Squidward says he's late, so let's give him a recap. Yeah. Like, we can do that, right?
Yeah.
Basically, there was a guy named Peter Heyman who wasn't just high up in the British government. Let me find again his in the 50s he worked for MI6, which is like England's CIA if you're unaware. In the 50s he served as the British on the British delegation to NATO. In 64 he was deputy commandant to the British military government in West Berlin. So that's height of the Cold War in like Berlin. By 70, he's submitting his credentials to the Canadian Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau. And we could spend so much time on just Trudeau and Montreal.
Yeah.
As the new High Commissioner, a post he kept until he retired in 74. Then, as soon as he gets back in England, he leaves a package that had been mailed to him, filled with child porn on a bus. The police find it. While they're investigating the flat it's addressed to, he shows up. And they find a ton of information that basically says this guy's been a very hardcore pedophile and associated with a pedophile network called the Pedophile Information Exchange. And this organization seems to have links throughout the government. There was a spy associated with it that was in 81 that got busted, that was the head of their signals intelligence for Russia.
Its branches go past Parliament and into Buckingham Palace itself.
Yeah, the butler groomed 4 different 14-year-olds between like 1970 and 2006.
And that's the detail that I can't, my brain won't stop looking.
Well, and took one of them to meet the Queen Mother.
See, and you're supposed to be there and in those positions because this is like a very important moment for you. And this is like, you know, they're using this to groom a kid.
And the thing that's important is that there was an MP who did his own investigation and built up this dossier of 101 different files and submitted it to a guy in the government who it turns out was associated with this and almost certainly destroyed the files. Now, next week, we're going to get back to how some of the... He also gave a copy of his dossier to MP Barbara Castle.
Oh.
And basically, it's going to be just as miserable as we were this week.
Yeah. I you know, in this, you know, to let Squidwin and anybody who's tuning into the live stream a little bit late, this is happening during the Thatcher administration. Well, I mean, when the information is being aggregated, if you will, and brought to the British government, it's happening during the Thatcher administration.
Yeah.
So, like, this information we're citing, and the sources are down in the description below, right? That's coming out like around the Thatcher administration, yes?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Like, this information's coming out during then, so we know that they've known for a long time about this systemic issue. And then there's who was it? There was somebody who said that what's his name was allowed into Parliament because they were trying to curb blackmail attempts.
Yeah.
Like they had confessed right there, like this guy's here for to prevent us from being blackmailed for the information he has.
Yeah.
Because he's got blackmail on all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a member of Parliament now. Like,
Well, no, he was already a member of Parliament. He got called out.
Oh.
So they're like, well, you can't be blackmailed if everybody knows it's part of parliamentary
I read
record.
that backward. They kicked him out because he's been fucking
They
blackmailed.
didn't even kick him out.
Well, they just called him out.
They called him out. They didn't kick him out.
Oh, I read that all crazy. Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, yeah, dude, it's overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming
Yeah.
how obviously they were just hiding it.
Yeah.
Squidward says this can't end well, probably before folks had kill switches, or not good ones.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one hard disagree.
Yeah.
Hard disagree on that one. But I think that it's not that they didn't have crazy technology like that. I think that the scope of what they're dealing with and the methods that they have to utilize to get that sort of stuff into people,
Yeah.
that would not have been practical to put a Harkonnen heart plug on everybody
Right.
like that was involved.
Right. Like, I mean, well, and
Well, and there's also the whole, like, during that era, it would have been like probably some sort of implant. Well, that is a form of evidence. Who needs that when you can just hire a gangster to strangle them for their wallet?
well, like medical care and stuff like that. When you're living and when you're like working at, like when you're staff at Buckingham Palace and you're a child.
Yeah. No,
Like-
you basically live there.
Well, and it'd be really easy for somebody higher up in the establishment to control every aspect of your fucking life. When you come home, when you leave home, where your home is, who treats you medically.
Dude, I didn't
they're
even, like,
constantly presenting you in front of majesty.
he was
to
a member
front-
of multiple London clubs, including the Army and Navy Club.
See?
He was a governor at a boys' school at one point.
The fuck? Whoa, that's Savile level of like.
Yeah, no, it really, guys, I only put so much in here because there's only so much I wanted to read without crying.
Yeah.
And some of it's going to come back for next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
It will, because it's still connected to this case.
Yeah. I thank you again for presenting the information. It's got to be hard researching stuff like this.
It's guys, I mean, I can sit around all day reading horrible stuff. I really can, but because I can disassociate, but when I can feel it bothering me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like,
when it hits your gut, that's
well,
what this
I feel like
story is.
if I know about it, I sort of owe it to let people know, but at the same time, yeah, dude, this is fucking miserable.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
And this is one of the things, like I said, if you're mad at your crazy QAnon uncle,
Yeah.
right? Understand that part of that might be a family dynamic, and that he has been subsumed by a propaganda campaign
Yeah.
with a functional basis in reality that he can go look at and look up, here in a minute we're going to go to some of these sources
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's like official stuff. So it's astounding to me how they have basically got us to really hate each other over this and call us insane lunatics, when it's just like, well, no, none of us are. I'm not a professional researcher. None of us are professional researchers. I'm truly hoping that every time that I do some of this shit, that somebody's gonna be like, nope, here's the proof that that's bullshit, and here's where the rumors started. You just got sucked in by some misinformation. I am.
Actually,
Like, I have no, in many ways, I got no problems with that happening, and I want to say that because this shit's miserable. I'd like it to not be true.
you're gonna launch that channel. You're gonna get monetized. You know what you'll be at that moment? A professional researcher.
Yeah, well,
You know what you are at this moment on this channel doing this show? A professional.
When I think that, I'm like,
Like,
I believe that things this important
Yeah.
should often get an academic treatment that I'm not capable of giving them, and I wish someone would.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's always in for you. Bring me details too. That it's there's things that you bring that you're researching that it's like there's always an actual government document attached to it.
Yeah, well, I try to, well, either that or at least some news stories talking about
Yeah.
these things, so that you see where people are getting their perspective from. Because yeah, like the first time I read about Leonard Kyle, you couldn't find any information about it. It was just one article by a guy named Alex Constantine, who is crazy. But he cited all his sources, and every one of them that I looked up that I could find over time just totally checked out until eventually I was able to use. They aggregated all the newspapers together. You can get on newspapers.com and just read so many articles about that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a...
That they, it was reported, but it was never wide-banded. It never really hit the wire.
There's an era, and we've talked about it on the show in the past, that sometimes information just didn't travel back then. There's a way that you can still, press will report on stuff, and it's almost like they're saying to the journalists that did report on it and did the brave work, like, no one's going to read it.
Yeah.
It'll never be history.
Well, my whole deal with this is I ain't trying to get fucking famous, man. I'm just like this shit bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a rough fucking topic. I'm gonna grab some food real quick. You need a drink? You good? Water? Yeah.
Well, I compulsively put myself in other people's shoes. It's a learned behavior because I was real bad at it when I was a kid. But, that's how you understand other people.
Yeah.
But because I learned it, and also because I learned that sometimes bad people aren't bad people, they're just people who have done bad things for reasons.
Lost and haven't had their redemption yet.
That I feel like has given me the opportunity to be able to examine people's motivations to understand how insanity like this could even fucking happen. Without going down the route of it just being, well, they're devil worshippers.
Yeah.
Like, which, shit, some of them might be, man. By whatever metric you care to use.
Yeah, plug the tiddly.
Oh, let me do a little editing on it because I hadn't been plugging it, and it is so fucking in need of an edit right now. But by next week, I should have it together because
plug that shits anyway. It'll be there in this episode. It'll be there in the week.
Oh, I think it's the tatteredmap.tiddlyhost.com.
There you go. Tatteredmap.tiddly. No, it is that. The tatteredmap.tiddlyhost.com.
Yeah, and that's just a site that located. There's a thing called a Tiddler that's like a digital notebook. This place is where mine's at. Yep, feel free to look it up. If you want to erase it or deface it, no problem. I've got backups.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to it. Yeah, there's no. Yeah, try to fuck around. But if you want the notes, if you want the juicy details, I've noticed that.
It's not just in there. There's also stuff that I'm looking through. Like nothing. If it's in there, just take it for being what it is at face at face value. A link on the internet. Start looking into it. You'll see some places that I've got it to be sorted, and some places that's just you click it and it's a bunch of links.
Yeah.
But. Check it out.
Check it out.
Try it out.
Try it out, buddy. Try it out. If you're a hot thug from jail, try it out. Oh God. Oh, exoskeleton for sure. Lol. Seriously, I don't know either though.
Oh wait, what is
that? My kid came home from school and said his teacher asked him,
"What is better, bones or exoskeleton?"
I would imagine bones. Because of how, look,
I'm gonna say bones because I like to be able to scratch an itch.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at. Can you imagine being a lobster and having an itch?
Well, having to molt, and then having a very susceptible period of time where you're just made of fluid membrane.
Oh yeah, no thank you.
I'm good.
Like I'm going through that Zoidberg molt stage? Nah, man.
Yeah, that's what it would be like.
Nope.
If we had an exoskeleton, we'd have to molt it.
Team bones. It's what meat grows on.
I like bones. It's what meat grows on, and it's delicious. Real quick hate to throw at anybody who eats boneless chicken fingers and prefers them over chicken wings on the bone. You're weak.
Yeah, those aren't chicken fingers. Chickens don't have fingers.
Yeah.
Those are nuggets.
Yeah. You don't have shit, you'll never have shit until you grow the fuck up. Anyway, moving on.
Hashtag Team Bones.
Yeah. Hashtag Team Bones. Fuck yeah. There it is. Hashtag Team Bones. I love you guys.
Yeah, Squidden, I'm glad you're checking it out. Check out that link that I told you about. I'll try and get it added onto the description here, and we'll get them added onto the descriptions for sure.
Yeah.
What else you say? Okay, Rich Buddy says the underground sex world is huge, a huge private high dollar protected society.
Yeah.
I used to know a guy that published very limited underground mags for big money. He studied under Anton LaVey, was a disciple. I believe that. LaVey claimed, and it's hard to find out, that he was a crime scene photographer for a while.
Oh.
Which means that he'd be selling crime photos to different like true crime magazines and stuff, which is part of this whole publishing network.
But he's also selling them to like the gore and the. Part of me always wonders if they
sold a ton of that to Mexican magazines, because Mexican gore magazines are still a thing to this day.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. No.
Their gang violence down there, particularly in the Triangle, you get like, dude, the level of body destruction and gore, like the level of mayhem they wreak, is that would make sense.
The first Tattered Map that we talk about, right, is the one with Kerry Thornley and a guy who's probably E. Howard Hunt talking to him, and they bring up snuff films at one point, and Thornley's like, no, I hadn't heard of it, and he's like, it's a film that they make in Mexico, is what he said, where an actress thinks she's in a scene with a fake gun, but the gun's real.
Whoa.
And the reason I bring it up is because during that time period, especially, look at the history of Mexico during the 50s forward. It's wild, right?
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff goes on, and also all sorts of astoundingly illegal things go on because the government there had almost no power to enforce laws or have a real investigative bureau.
Yeah.
Man. Like they didn't really have that till they created the federales, man.
Not saying this is attached like this. Look. We just recently had a situation in Hollywood where potentially on film someone died.
Yeah.
And that film was having budget and production issues.
Look, I'm not saying like that. I'm not saying, but I'm saying what I am saying is that's the type of setup where the film of that is going to be highly sought after by certain types of collectors if they could get it.
I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to kind of.
They said that
I'm starting to feel some of your subtext around Alec Baldwin, I guess is what I'm getting at. Like, he's a producer that acts a certain way, and he was the producer of that film. He would have immediate access to that footage.
He would. Also, not. I like Alec Baldwin as an actor, I'm looking at the general structure. Right, so let's just take names out of this. In a situation like that, the producer would be the person who would likely be capable of getting access to that film. All they'd have to say is secure the film for the police.
Yeah,
let's get that secured back into a tent right now. The police are going to want to look at it.
Yeah,
and at that point, what happens? Somebody makes a copy. One of the earliest, most terrifying bits of footage that I ever saw. John could tell us the movie, but there's an actor where they got the helicopter too close, and I have seen footage of the 4 frames where you're like, I wish I hadn't, but I was friends with Shane Ballard and he collected shit.
So you had that 4 frames from the
the 4 frames from that, and dude's head comes off.
The John Landis footage,
I saw that. I saw the infamous Chuck Berry tape. Yes, it is real. It is real.
Yeah, the Chuck Berry. Yeah.
I saw the Bob Crane body removal video.
Whoa, I've never been able to find that.
Yeah, dude, he had it all.
That's wild.
Like that's one of the reasons too that I get so nervous about all this shit, is because it feels like he somehow got keyed into that world.
Whoa. I think you might be right with that, because there's the amount of B films still being made by these kind of like porn producers and stuff. Like, there's a lot of media outside of some of this, like, people that have the equipment. You know what I mean?
The industrial film world that makes films for, like, corporations to use in-house is bigger than Hollywood.
Damn.
And a lot of actors that we know in Hollywood make most of their money within that.
Yeah.
That's why when you see when you see their worth not commensurate with what they've been paid on books in Hollywood that you know about.
Yeah.
It's because NDAs are covering everything else and they just have to show it on their taxes.
Word. See, there's a... It's like the t-shirt game with musicians or YouTubers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, really who you're dealing with is sponsors and like things like that. Like, you're not... Where you make your money isn't the thing.
No, you make your legitimacy in Hollywood.
Yeah. You make your legitimate... Yeah, you get the Oscar-nominated shit, but you've been doing a lot of grinding. There's a lot of shit without your name on it or with a pseudonym on it. Who was it? John Carver? No. James Cameron did a bunch of shit under a different name.
I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me.
And I'm pretty sure he was doing it for what's his name, the B movie guy.
Corman. Yeah, no, he got his start with Corman. I know that.
There's a bunch of stuff it's him, but it's not listed as James Cameron. He gets a credit, but it's not credited to James Cameron.
Dude, John Huston. Angelica Houston's father.
Oh, shit.
Somehow he's a key to all this. I'm certain of it.
Whoa. Really?
Right. You remember in Century of the Self when they show you the footage of the soldiers who've come back from war, and there's a black guy that they're interviewing for a psychological interview, and he breaks down crying talking about nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
That's from a movie he did for the U.S. Psychology Department, or like their psychological department of the Army, right? That was called Let There Be Light. And in 51, they basically pulled it, reshot it with all white people, and fictionalized everything and called it Shades of Grey. And that was the official document to fill that role within the Army.
Whoa.
When they used it as a training film. And eventually, I can't remember who was involved, but like in 1986, it finally got... somebody had to write to a senator functionally to get them to declassify it so he could release it.
Yeah.
But my point being is, John Huston, functionally, his first film, maybe not his first. No, not his first film. He did Casablanca, but post Casablanca, his World War II service basically was working for U.S. World War II and post World War II service is working with the psychological corps of the U.S. Army, which has all those paperclip Nazis.
Yep. Oh man!
So eventually, we're gonna. I have almost. I'm this close to tying John Huston in a chain to Roy Raiden.
I think you might be fucking able to. Roy Raiden's story is weird to me, and if you've read The Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry, you know all about this Roy Raiden kind of connection to some of these like stay behind you. Well, specifically what we're talking about here in the Tattered Map.
Well, the fact that somehow Tiny Tim, real name Herbert Corey.
Oh. I know. I never knew Tiny Tim's real name.
Yeah, Khaury.
Tiptoe with the... Yeah. Damn. Really?
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, you going to work? We should hit the dub horn in reverse. Did that crank you out?
But yeah, these stay behind armies to me seem connected through NATO and also through fascist elements through a group called the Paladin Group that was put together by Otto Skorzeny. And I think you have these two groups working in tandem but separately, right? Functionally to be capable of taking on the Russians in general. It takes place in Europe, and it's designed for a fucking land tank war where the Russians just sweep Europe.
Yeah.
And to create these stay-behind armies there, right? In the U.S., though, we had the same thing for just in case, and I think ours was more predicated on rebuilding post-nuclear war, which is why you have the most hardcore fanatical groups that they could come up with.
Oh.
It's not politics with them like it is in Europe as much, which is very much about very hardcore right and left wing Oryakiist politics.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, it seems tied to cults, like specifically created post Anton LaVey by studying Anton LaVey by Michael Aquino.
Man, and
the man who stole LaVey's daughter.
The man who stole LaVey's daughter. The Aquino is such that Satanist in particular.
Well, I think it started with L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
But then was kicked. That was the learning and gathering data and building the back end phase, and that when Aquino happens, that's the but basically starting in '68 when Aquino joins, just shows up out of nowhere basically in all the record. That's about the time that Manson starts going nuts and we start getting that pivot from hippiedom to this weird Satanism thing.
Because of Aquino's relationship with at the time, like early trash TV.
Yeah.
Aquino is you know, a lot of people talk about when they were kids, the face of Satanism was Anton LaVey for them.
Right.
For me, it was Aquino, and I still to my mind don't understand why there's. Dude seems like he fucking came and went like someone blew a candle out.
Because of the Presidio affair, the Presidio daycare affair that he was tied to.
Oh.
And then everybody, like there was the big satanic panic that almost in many ways really hinges on that.
Okay.
And then functionally, as I recall, Oprah comes out of nowhere associated with the False Memory Foundation and gives them a huge megaphone just as she's getting big, and that totally reverses the narrative, totally exonerates him in the public's eye because they're like, well, we've all been duped.
Yeah. Because I want to say Aquino was on Sarah Jessica Raphael. He was on Geraldo.
Yeah. He was the guy that they went for.
Yeah, like he was a military guy who was a Satanist, and he would show up and he would be, you know, talk about how it's not what you think it is.
Yeah. Well,
join the military and be a Satanist was like specifically his message.
Yeah.
Like in that, you know.
And that's at the height of the Reagan era is when he's doing that.
Yeah, and another notable Satanist, outward Satanist that was in the military and military trained was Israel Keyes. There's a certain type that, and Israel Keyes was closer to my age. So the face would have been that guy telling him to do what? Join the military,
become a Satanist.
And he did those.
Man, I've never really looked into Israel Keyes' service, but I'm gonna.
Smooches. Lux is going to work. Reverse dub horns again.
Rich says, I wonder what he's doing now. Oh, you're talking about your buddy Johnny. I was about to say, Aquino died, and they didn't tell anybody for a year.
And I still don't even know if he was the person he said he was.
Yeah. I think that Aquino was David Ferry, and then I think Aquino died in the 90s, like David Ferry died in the 90s, and they recast Aquino basically to wealth extract him. Everything he had built at that point, he has to deal with a bunch of craziness, and he just starts losing money like crazy. Yeah. And that's classic gangster occultism.
Yeah.
Like, bring them in, build them up, and as soon as they start going bad, don't just steal all their followers, steal all their money.
These reasons, not only do Ferry and Aquino look a lot alike, like you just have to curl the eyebrows, job.
Yeah, well, and once again, Aquino shows up the moment Ferry supposedly dies in a plane crash.
See, too much. That's why I'll probably always think Ferry and Aquino were the same person. I mean, yeah, maybe Aquino is it, but I don't think he was born.
Yeah, and David Ferry, man, was so CIA adjacent. He's one of the guys that helped overthrow the Allende regime with E. Howard Hunt in '53.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
right. He was involved in Bay of Pigs. He was like the spy pilot for a while. This crazy motherfucker with such severe alopecia that he had no hair and had to wear false eyebrows like those Mentat daddies that motherfucking
and David Lynch dude.
Yeah, that Aquino has.
The big.
That seems like the basis for his eyebrows in that. Which
they really do.
When you look into Dune,
look. I know David Lynch has hung out with John Peters. I know John Peters has hung out with the Process Church. I know members of the Process Church have definitely hung out with Ferry or Aquino.
No. John Waters has talked about hanging out with the Processians. I've seen an interview where he does.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Not just Peters, like with the Processians.
I meant Waters.
Oh yeah, I know. John Waters said that. Yeah.
John Peters is the dude who did Wild Wild West.
Oh.
My bad. Not John Peters.
But yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And he's a theosophist, you know. Not exactly. He follows Alice Bailey, but Bailey's tide is theosophy as well. It's just another branch. No, I like David Lynch. If it comes out that David Lynch was doing something insane, yeah. I mean, he did start doing his weather report for Rodney on the Rock, I believe. The infamous Rodney Bingenheimer, who seems like an American Savile.
I think before he got big into transcendental meditation, he was hanging out with those circles just to network, at least. At least.
He's from, isn't he from North Dakota?
I believe so. He's from somewhere, like real fucking Mother Grinder.
Oh, I do not know.
I forgot where I put it. Well, fuck it, I don't need the grinder. Fucking we'll do it live.
Yeah. So no, like look up Michael Aquino. The only reason I haven't done a Tattered Map on Michael Aquino is because that's going to be a two-parter in and of itself.
Yeah, and kind of down in the timeline. kind of further down in the timeline. But that
well,
guy,
it's like I said before. I'm going to move all over in the timeline. I'm giving you examples. I'm sure by the time we're at like episode 30, I'll be like, "Do you see the fucking where Pepe Silva network now?
Do you see it? Do you see it?" We look back on the time. We do a retrospective episode where we pull clips and shit. We're like, "Do you see it? Do you see?"
But yeah, it's overwhelming to me that in an attempt to make sure we stuck around, we have culturally apparently made ourselves accepting. And when I say this, I don't mean America per se. I mean all of Western culture seems to be willing to at least cover up a bunch of pedophile scandals over and over and a bunch of rape scandals over and over. And it's so weird how so many of them tie back to people involved in things like spies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. Spies or disinformation shipment to pollute the waters. Much like you think there's different things that are psyops, I kind of think the flat Earth shit is.
No, like once again, I don't think they're telling us everything about space, and it could be something mundane like, oh no, it's a minefield up there.
Yeah.
Like you just can't get anything higher than satellites right now, and we've been lying about everything else since around 1972.
I think they hit Eric Dubé's head with a microwave, and we're like, all right, go. He was like, flat Earth! And everyone was like, yeah, and ran with it, and he was like, all right, we did it. And everybody at NASA clapped from behind the control board like, man, fried that guy's brain proper. And everyone's buying his shit.
It's going to end up at Isaac Cappy. That's just my prediction, and possibly Tom Hanks. Look, man, in hindsight, that Isaac Cappy video is looking...
Yeah. I've yet to see, man. We have a new friend who came in hot with some was it Frizzle Drip?
Frazzle Drip. No, Frazzle like that. Drip. That one, I believe that is a false narrative that may be representative of real things.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to tie it to Clinton in specific or Ellen in specific.
No, they're muddying the waters of what is true behind that Pizzagate weirdness.
But
because there's something weird behind it. I don't think it's.
I guess what I would say is
violent about, but I think there's something weird to it.
I think that they worked the opposite way. I think whatever it is that she had on her hoodie in that video, and whatever it is that's in that painting,
why still can't find a video?
I'll show it to you. Well, no, not that video. I'm not even going to look for that shit.
I can't find it. I tried.
But I think that somebody set up a practical effects video.
Yeah.
To say this was the source of that artwork, because we can draw aesthetic similarities and tie it into this. And I think that if a person was one of those like crazy groups of people who decided to move to Russia in '96 or whatever and just run psyops against the U.S. because they hated us so much, right? That would be the type of thing they'd be willing to put time and effort and production effort into doing.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I say it is that, I mean, in some of the stuff I've read researching these two dossiers, sounds like that's a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Okay? Like the contents of that video. I don't want to talk about it. Y'all look it up.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, it does seem like a thing that could happen. I have significant doubts about it actually have been out in this time.
Yeah. There's I think the frazzle drop shit or whatever frazzle drip. That's meant to pollute the waters of something where there's actually more behind that story. And I think what is behind that story is a little more human than anybody who's propagating those conspiracies would care to think.
Well, yeah, and that's that's what makes it so damn terrifying, right?
That's the thing I really appreciate about your line of research and what separates you, in my opinion, from a lot of other people who present a conspiracy to people. You've done research and you're presenting the human element, and when you're talking about things that have happened, they have happened.
Yeah.
And there's documents to prove they've happened. There's places to cite.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, it's just scary. It's just scary because, I mean, the implication is there's people out here who wouldn't just do this, they'll make a fucking lesson out of you.
Yeah.
And it's, fuck, man.
Well, but here's
the thing. And here's the other scary part is that probably at least half of them are like, well, I mean, we gotta because we're trying not to get nuked, you dumb fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Growing up in the Cold War, I've been talked to like that and even convinced about some, like, the idea that we would point a bunch of nukes at the rest of the world.
Yeah.
What? We're doing that?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, yeah, but we're in a we're in a standoff. Like, what else do we do? You were born with that already the case, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, I don't know how to emotionally process this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But could y'all just not do this?
Yeah.
Please?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's busting people open like crawdads and sucking their juices out. I think there's definitely very human motivations behind it. And by that I mean everything dirty a human can get up to. Everything we've talked about on the Tattered Map. We've now talked about another means of control to continue this, like, stay behind army mentality.
The Phoenicians? I could cite I'll post it in the fucking Discord. Yeah. The Phoenicians...
Hard time breathing, read the ad break.
As part of their religion, if things were going bad, would sacrifice their firstborn to Kronos. And they wouldn't just do it, they'd put him on this big brass altar of Kronos that had fires underneath them. Yeah, that's how they killed him. And just basically cooked him to death. It was an animal sacrifice, right? Like, if animal sacrifices weren't working, you were supposed to move up. There was like 3 classes, right? It starts with animal sacrifice, then it's a commoner in that place. But for certain things, that'll never do. It has to be your own firstborn.
God.
Right? Now, that's a fact. Is there a continuity from Phoenicia, the people who gave us phonetics, to now? I don't think that I could observe that. I could see it being weaponized as an idea to convince a bunch of people to act a terrible way.
What was the old thing on was it Tubby? The thing that would teach you to speak other languages that was it looked like some Schoolhouse Rock shit that advertised it on VHS.
Oh, jeez. I have a vague memory of a screen, but I don't know the name.
You know what I'm talking about, like the animated elephant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I always feel like that company's connected to something, and it's got something to do with like Phoenician. Like, it's a phonetics thing. It's like a hooked on phonics style thing, and there's a way to manipulate language, a way to manipulate someone in the Anglosphere through English. It's completely different than any other language.
No, it is because we describe. I've gone into this before. It's because we describe the noun before we say the noun, and that puts you in a mild trance state, waiting for me to tell you what it is I just described.
Yeah.
If I'll say purple dog, not the dog that was purple.
Yeah.
Because if I say the dog that was purple, you might have thought of a brown dog, and then you expend mental calories having to readjust. Which is specifically a way that I can break in my language to tire you out mentally.
Yeah. And
the ability to both do that and state what appear to be facts to you makes your critical factor just check out. And the next thing you know, I've said so many things that are both boring and factual, and yet you feel compelled to listen to me due to charisma, or what is called I've established rapport, that you just start believing it.
Yeah.
And that's how hypnosis works. Like, in a nutshell, there's a concept called pacing and leading. That's not getting into like neuro-linguistic programming and shit, but that's the fundamental basis of how easy it is.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, that doesn't work on me. You're probably wrong. Yeah. It might not work great on you, but over a long amount of time, it will work on you because it's basically just B.F. Skinner's conditioning. It's either like operant conditioning or classical conditioning, you know? And that's basically the two functions you use to learn. And this is a way you can use language to subvert that, to get people to take in data as learning without even really considering it and internalizing it as true, because it was so associated with so many true statements. Yeah. Which is why conspiracy theories do work so well even when they're bullshit, because the ones that are believable have enough verifiable what the fuck information that people just accept the rest of it.
Yeah, there's just as an artist, it's I like a quote from Frank Zappa where he talks about the way in which he delivers lyrics. Mm-hmm. Because he could be melodically complicated, and sometimes he does it in his words to be nasty.
Right.
But for the most part, he says his lyrics.
Yes, he's very, very spoken.
He just says it, and but he's doing that to manipulate. You know what I mean? He's giving you some information in a way
he's very strategically saying it because your brain hears it as said, but it's basically in rhythm.
Yeah.
And he does sing song a little bit. He'll hold out a vowel where he needs to.
Yeah.
I
think a lot
but he's not singing.
Yeah. I thought a lot about things like that when we were doing the Para Aduma records. Because what we're doing is we're giving people a lot of information really fast.
Yeah, that's I was talking about managing off camera. I was talking about being a musician who plays fast. I could manage what's called time distortion really well.
Yeah.
And the reason I like to play fast is because I put a lot of information in there to keep me occupied so I don't get bored.
Yeah, and then you got the adrenaline of the live thing, and so you'll see that sometimes songs are played faster live.
Oh, yeah, dude. We would have, in my punk band, we'd have what we thought was about a 30-minute set, and it would be a 19-minute set when we were done at the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're like, encore, bitches, and the guys at the back's like, you got more time.
Well, yeah, Squidwin says, yep, and people's egos plays big into conspiracy theory, and that's very, very true, man. Yeah. You can get a sense of power from being the bearer of hidden knowledge. That's why a lot of people really do propagate conspiracy theories. People is it makes them feel like when I say it makes them feel intelligent, it's not that it makes them feel smart. It's that it makes them feel that they're being helpful in an uncomfortable way.
People lose their relationship with their ego too. They stop using it as a tool and let it become them.
Yeah,
and then that breeds, in my opinion, confirmation bias.
Absolutely. Like you got to be able to step back and be like in my case, where I'm like, prove me wrong on some of this.
Yeah.
When I say it's a challenge, it's because I want to lose.
Yeah, yeah. It's because I'm trying to have a whole shot in it. Very rarely have I come to a conclusion from my ego has come to a conclusion that's ever been like. Right. Normally the other side of me shows up even after I've voiced it sometimes and been like, yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
That was deeply flawed because I came at it from a place of ego as opposed to research.
Yeah.
Like genuine research and like I'm typing specific things in looking for specific articles. You know what I mean? Like that's another, I feel like our internet too can like, this algorithm-based shit sometimes can really fuck up somebody who's serious into research.
Look, you can always find people with more credentials than you to confirm what you want to believe.
Exactly.
There's a market for every viewpoint.
Well, in this algorithmic-driven shit, now it's like tailored specifically to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So whatever you need your bias confirmed on, you might be able to Google. You will be able to Google it and find it. So it's just become it's independent research. Like there's times where again I couldn't thank you enough sometimes for like the quality of independent research you do. There's even myself, like there's times where I'm researching angles on stories I'm covering on the talk show where just because of who I am and what I'm typing in, I'm only getting a certain angle of it. Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's if you're doing a real time thing, that's just all you can. Like when I say all you can do is react, you're in a reactive headspace. That's creative. That's improvisation. Yeah. You're excellent as that as a musician and as a person in general. Yeah, that's why I prefer to keep the talk show now. I don't do as much research or anything. I kind of let it happen in front of me.
If you give me an instrument, I'm great at that. In many ways, I'm great at it. Doing this type of thing, you want me to have my references. Yeah. One. If I don't, I just sound crazy. Two, if I don't, I will go off topic, like in this context. Yeah, because so much of this stuff is networked. So you start moving left on something related, you're not moving forward. Yeah, we have a really solid. I like the way you've structured the Tattered Map so far. By the way, looking back on the show, I get that sensation of a job well done every time I post a new episode of the playlist. Hey, Michelle. But there. Hey, Squidwin, if you're interested in self-hypnosis, see if you can find Darren Brown's book on self-hypnosis. Oh yeah. Get it from the devil's teat himself. Yeah, no, you're not gonna find a better authority on the subject on earth. Yeah, I bet hopefully someday he sees me calling him the devil and shit and gets a kick out of it because you know how evil you can. Oh be. Yeah. I hope you're not being that evil. He doesn't have that Svengali look for no reason. He did a whole Svengali special with the goatee talking about how I look like the devil. Like and I'm gonna do some devilish shit to a whole crowd of people. Yeah, no, and you want to see somebody who's excellent at crowd manipulation. Like that's one of the things where he'll pull somebody out of the crowd and do some shit that obviously couldn't have been set up.
Hypnotized for a reshoot.
Yeah, not that he's not incapable of also improvising out like that too, which is the most terrifying thing. He's demonstrated he can do it, and also he can totally fake it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the wild thing.
Yeah. He'll demonstrate how you can fake shit. Yeah, that's what impresses me the most, and again, because I'm kind of from a. Like, I know a few different slick things. Like, I can lift
Thanks,
a pocket.
Squidward. I appreciate that.
Sorry I'm getting you off topic, but you sound very intelligent. Oh, yeah. No problem, Squidward, at all. There's but like, you know, I always love his grifter shit. Like, there's like, I can pick a pocket fairly well back when I was younger, and I used to be slick enough I might be able to pull a watch off a motherfucker.
Yeah, but he's so slick he can teach your grandmother to pull your watch off.
He can teach. Yeah, it's
like, and he does in one of his specials. You get me talking on him, I'm just going to sound like I'm trying to I'm my job is to run his special.
Yeah. We got a new contract. We're PR for Darren Brown. We're increasing his Mysterioso look and shit. We're like, yeah, we're image consultants for Darren Brown.
No. That dude's definitely the court magician for the Queen of England.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. I told, dude, when you said that, like, it went from Savile to Darren Brown, I was like, oh, I love that. Yeah. I love that. There's something about the Savile story. Who was it that brought up? You brought up Scorzani earlier.
Yeah, no, well, like, dude, Scorzani, man, like, that's a big part of it. Is the guy who was Hitler's favorite commando died of jaw cancer in Spain in like 74 or 76. I can't remember exactly, but he set up multiple mercenary groups. Like, when you think about the round table of bad guys in Bond, that's with Scorzani at the head.
Yeah.
And Gaddafi's in there. He helped train Gaddafi, as I recall.
Yeah.
A lot of Nazis post World War II became mercenaries in Africa, or became official hires in South America or North Africa, like Egypt.
Yeah, did what Vikings do.
Like, they basically set up Egypt, like Nasser in Egypt's entire security apparatus.
Did what Vikings do when they don't have a Norway to go back to, or a Sweden to go back to, or a fucking whatever, Scandinavia to go back to.
Well, and they modeled themselves on the Vikings, so it's no surprise that that's what they did.
That's what they did. Well, and the English, when they're not even trying to model themselves after Vikings, act that way.
Well, and like I said, it wasn't necessarily the English, it was the Irish. And I think Mad Mike Hoare was probably operating on his own, but the Brits knew, or had his organization so penetrated that it was as co-opted as Reinhard Galen's. Reinhard Galen was running triple agents.
Damn.
Guys who were working for Galen, the KGB, and the CIA.
You have a triple agent.
Yeah.
God damn.
Dude, like, when you want to talk about a spy master, Reinhard Galen's a spy master.
Like, it makes...
Like, he's a terrible Nazi, but, know thy enemy.
Not James Pettit, but a character that we talked about in a previous Tattered Map. The guy who had multiple layered personalities. He functionally could have been like a quadruple agent.
Luis... Oh, jeez, I'd have to look it up because I'm terrible with names. That's why the notes. Yeah. Luis Angelo?
Robo mercenaries.
Yes.
That you can just be like, you're Luis now. And they're like, for America. You're Pablo now. For Cuba.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you change immediately. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And when you like you needed to penetrate a guy's operation who's already taken in any fighter he can, and you're already mad at Ireland, and so you fabricate a bunch of agents who truly believe that they're working for that guy. Yeah. Next thing you know, he's your enemy, and you know what they're doing, and you let them win sometimes because you can't lose your resource. This goes back to that mindset, right? It's like, well, they're working against us, but the amount that they do is nothing compared to what we gain. And if we must, we can have some of it ended.
As a parent, I've been able to gain the actual, like, understanding of what it is to truly infantilize something, even a concept, right?
Right.
And so what do? Like, let's say you're, like, playing a game against something, but you've infantilized it in your head. It's a child that you're either teaching, or, like in this case, it's a weak structure you're manipulating.
Yes.
And so for these weak structures you're manipulating, it's infantilized in the schemer's head, and so they manipulate and treat accordingly. So you'll see them let the other side win sometimes.
Yes.
Because for them, it's a baby winning. Like, yeah, but they're not going to win the next game or the game, you know.
No, absolutely.
I let them win, you know.
Or they're you make sure things are set up so that where they end up isn't of the most strategic importance because of the nature of work they're doing.
Yeah.
And like sometimes his mercenaries would find themselves fighting on both sides of the war. Like they'd swap sides twice.
Fuck. Mercenaries swapping sides twice. Like, and you don't know.
Hey, they're only loyal to their paycheck, man.
It'd feel like, you know, ancient England, where
and
Vikings are mercenaries for Egbert now, and they're fucking so-and-so up, but then Egbert's fucking the Vikings. You know what I mean? Like, you literally don't know where the Vikings are sometimes. You're like, why are you here? And they're like, to kill! Okay.
Well, and that's what it's like. You've got a bunch of guys who were trained probably from being kids to be in a bunch of militaries that lost, dispersed after the war, and found work wherever they could.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, you might like this. Keep in mind, Ireland was neutral. They didn't have a problem technically with the Reich. So yeah, Mad Mike Hoare's not going to have any problems hiring a bunch of people who are ex-Reich.
No, he could go and hire Germans like a motherfucker, especially post World War II, where everybody's, you know, it's paperclip.
And other Scandinavians, especially because they often found themselves in the same position. They were on a losing side, not wanting to get tried, adopt a new name, and go fight in the Congo.
Who's offering me a deal where there's some money and they're not gonna send me to a trial?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where can I live a life outside of being a tried war criminal?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, like most of the Germans, this is going to sound bizarre, but hear me out. Most of the German soldiers were horrified at the trials because I can't remember who it was, maybe Hess, said, why are you doing this? What's the point of it? You won. Like, kill us or not, what's the point of the trial?
Yeah, why does this fucking...
You know, and their whole expectation, I think, was that post-war, most likely, they would be treated like soldiers were treated. And in many cases, do you know how many Germans were returned to Germany after World War II?
Dude.
Like, it's not like
I heard quite a few. Were.
Yeah, the vast majority of the German army, you don't just murder everybody on the losing side.
Yeah, that's
like even if they were running death camps.
That's Stalin's move.
Yeah,
that's Russia's move.
But they also they both took advantage of that, and for a lot of them, that somehow managed to further radicalize them even worse than being in the Nazi army had.
Yeah. Oof. But yeah, Skorzeny, that era, those like, when the world is sucking up that faction's resources, and these people are, and then immediately after you have all of these things show up, but particularly an era in espionage where you have things like triple fucking agents. Yeah, where somebody could be an ex-Nazi agent that had been working for the CIA, so they're already a double agent, and then they get compromised by the KGB, who they've been infiltrating. Yeah. Like what? Yeah. And what are they doing? They're running misinformation to 2 out of 3 sides. It builds to this Captain America, Winter Soldier shit. Yeah, absolutely. Like it builds to this and then every time we go down this kind of conversation, I always go back to that movie too, because it's the one where they didn't have government clearance, right? Nope, they didn't have government clearance. The Russos didn't. That's why nothing in there looks like real military equipment. And I find it funny that the government didn't approve that film, and it's the one that's about sleeper agents and this Manchurian Candidate kind of weekend program. And we know for a fact. Well, and basically Hydra, who we all know are Nazis, running a secret off-ground intelligence operation. Yeah. Well, and then what happens after Hydra is dissolved? Those assets are sucked up by the wealthiest party. So, the Winter Soldiers, and it is a Russian thing. Yeah. But it ends up back at Hydra. Yep. And then, but it's tech from Hydra. You know what I mean? There's this history that almost parallels. Well, I think a lot of that was written with a knowledge of all of this history. Yeah, I just again the concept of a mercenary, that you don't just buy this motherfucker to do a hit for you. He gets a whole new department and personality in his brain that's for you. Well, yeah, there's 3 or 4 of them, and one of them's just kill yourself as soon as you can. Yeah, and without the program book, if you lose your user manual.
Oh yeah, well, and
He's either stuck as Pierre or someone's gonna say broken arrow and he's gonna fucking off himself.
well, and especially when your user manual is just a string of letters that you have to know which to say in what order.
That was another thing. The things that set him off through these what was it, like weeks and months of fucking hypnotherapy.
Yeah, months. I think they said like 150 sessions
of hypnotherapy where they're breaking down these different. Like he had completely different personalities. Like that's what blew my mind was like, yeah, one was himself seemingly that was hidden behind off yourself personality, like violently suicidal personality.
How good of hypnotist did Marcos have?
Oh, I mean,
and where did he get them?
I got a feeling they learned a lot about hypnotism too during World War II.
Oh yeah, no, they did they did a whole thing on that.
Humans. They learned a lot about the corporeal form and were taking a lot of people apart to do so.
Yeah,
and I think that there's maybe a chunk of that we know for sure Russia sucked up.
Well, okay, here's one. Japan had its own Mingala type outfit called Unit 746, I believe. Yeah. There's a terrible movie that's a lot to watch. It's about 4 hours from a Russian guy called Philosophy of a Knife. And it's a fictionalized documentary, basically, of you don't want to watch it, I promise you. You just want to read the synopsis. But no, they were doing all the Mingala stuff, which I will tell you right now, what I think Mingala and Unit 746 were doing was setting up a space medicine program. I think they were getting all the data they needed on the human body to figure out what was going to happen when you put people in space and what could the body deal with. And that's why they would irradiate people. They subject them to extreme cold. And the guy who was the head of that unit got sucked up under Project Paperclip because we got all the Japanese.
Yeah, we sure did. Well, look, we also had a bunch of, in my opinion, high-ranking Japanese people. Mm-hmm. We had members of their families or offshoots of their family branches in fucking camps in America.
Yeah,
we were I think we had a lot of those Japanese resources at fucking gunpoint.
At gunpoint, absolutely.
Hey, you get over here, we have your cousins.
Yeah.
You work for Aerodyne now.
Yeah, that it was one of those situations where it was, yeah, we understand culturally you've been taught that death before dishonor, but well, now we figured out that we can put you in a situation that you'll choose to continue to be dishonored so that it doesn't harm other people.
Yeah, how about your whole family?
Yeah, and that's how we seem to play that game.
Yeah,
but no, and I think some of those people would have been quite willing. They're like, oh, you're working with the remnants of the Reich, I guess, same team, right?
Because that's really my conspiracy as to why we did that to the Japanese population of America. Is that was a very cruel means of trying to get whatever fucking they could on anybody in the Japanese government or military.
Absolutely.
Anybody from anywhere. If you work a job in Japan, they're trying to compromise any Japanese, anybody, and particularly evil time in American history.
I often wonder if the atomic attacks were functionally intentional psychological attacks, specifically designed not to make them quit, but to ensure they would be malleable as a culture for us in the post-war environment when we had demonstrated the ability to obliterate them very quickly, and we were the only people there to allow any relief through. I have my machinist instructor was talking about that era, and he's like, you don't understand. They became really good at what they did because they didn't invent statistical process control. Arthur Deming, who is the highest, the Arthur Deming Award is the highest award you can get in Japan for technical manufacturing excellence. He introduced the concept to them of statistical process control. That's why the Japanese slowly but surely always improved the quality of their goods.
Yeah.
They were using statistics when we would just run a factory and make the stuff, and if it was messed up, send it back to the line to see if you could fix it and then sell it.
Yeah.
It was called the rework model.
Yeah, rework and utilitarian is fun.
And they applied that to damn near every portion of their culture. But that made them as a culture for us in the post-war environment, I believe, predictable enough for us to control them into being a trading partner.
And it made them, when we knew that they needed to become a production powerhouse, and if you can control in what way they become a production powerhouse, you have a lot of cultural control as to where that goes, and almost like a Golden Path Dune kind of way.
And I think we knew what was coming against Chiang Kai-shek because we'd worked with Chiang Kai-shek. E. Howard Hunt was there along with Mitch Warbell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were well aware that Chiang Kai-shek was going to fall and the communists were going to take over, and they were already trying to make sure to have Japan set up as a military landing strip base front in case of a full communist takeover of all of Southeast Asia's mainland.
Yeah.
Which, you saw what happened immediately afterward in Korea.
Yeah.
Which basically was just an extension of World War II.
I have a thought frequently about Japan that I don't like, which is, what do you think about Tokyo when you hear the name Tokyo and think about the city? In my head, I think the future.
Yeah.
The motherfucker looks like a future city, right? It's a metropolis built on technological innovation. There's, it seems like there's screens everywhere. To me, a Westerner, that's how it vibes. It feels like it's the future. And I wonder, and again, I not in any kind of negative way, I just wonder if it would have gotten there without those nuclear attacks.
I don't know. I think we could. I think I would say that the reason it's so extreme is due to that. The reason we buy Japanese electronics is the rest of the world, as most of our listeners in the rest of the world know, operates on 50 hertz power.
Yeah. But I also, when I'm thinking that, I should really clarify that I'm also wondering if it's good that it became a metropolis.
I think that they ran a big social experiment on Japan.
It's how it feels.
And I think that model was copied by South Korea.
Oh shit.
And I think they started it with Japan.
It's interesting that South Korea has on the ground, on average, the most citizens to get plastic surgery.
Oh yeah,
plastic surgery has become a cultural norm, from what I read the other day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, to make them look more white, basically.
Yeah, and that's wild to me. That feels like that's a cultural manipulation that somehow ended. I don't know where. You know what I mean? That's like something that nobody necessarily knew that would be the end goal, but something led to that having been there.
I don't know, because when I talk about cybernetics, the history of cybernetics as a science. And it's important to understand that just means mind-machine interface. And I don't mean wired in. It just means the interfacing of your mind with the machine in any way. Even operating a keyboard is sort of cybernetics by that definition, right? But the obsession with that as a guiding factor starting in the late 40s, I think may have ideologically driven us to basically attempt to cyberneticize Japan.
Yeah.
And it explains why they did the same sort of thing in Chile, and why eventually Korea pivoted over to the same model. I think they would like to and now we've all got phones. I think they wanted to cyberneticize the world, that's where they really started the models, because they had a population that had gone through hell and lost and was psychologically malleable.
Well, here's another thing, an interesting variable about this time period, right? Again, we have actively American citizens who are Japanese detained in camps.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to, you know what I mean? Maybe they were experimented on. Maybe some proto-Leonard Kyle shit.
I would be really, really surprised to hear that some proto-Leonard Kyle shit hadn't happened. I would say, based on everything I've read, from what I've read, it seems to me that
if you're to field test a way to cyberneticize Japanese people in that era, what would you do?
I think it would be a lot more likely that it was more like Luis Angelo, where it wasn't like surgery or implants; it was severe hypnotic trauma. I think in that specific case, that would be a lot more likely that they'd be like, "Oh no, we're creating agents."
It is interesting that it seems to be people of Asiatic descent or Eastern descent, even if they're white passing like myself, that seem to have a Manchurian Candidate story, like Sirhan, or again this Hispanic cat.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't know his actual nationality, but I mean, I'm gonna assume there's some Asiatic in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna assume there's something from the other continent.
Well, I think he claimed to be Puerto Rican.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, no.
That's right. He was Puerto Rico at the
I believe
that base personality passed.
The guy that was likely recruited from fucking New York.
Yeah.
Was likely born in New York and just happened to be of Hispanic passing descent. And that's important to understand, that because in the era they were looking for, it's could we break you down and then reteach you so you have the appropriate accent and you would pass culturally.
How did you grab an off the street New York Latin from fucking like Washington Heights, Puerto Rico? You know what I mean? Like, how'd you spin that? That's some of the strongest characters, though. That's all I mean. Is like that's like programming John Leguizamo.
I'm
like, yeah.
I'm assuming it has to do with them just being human beings, and like you see in the subtext to all this, right? If you're talking about that, then the smartest time to start from everything I've read is at the youngest age.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
And so these people provide you a likely pool of candidates to draw from for that type of operation.
Man. I hate that we even have like, that sounds solid. It's one of those things where it's like we get to a certain level in this rabbit hole where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Man, fuck.
Yeah. Well,
fuck.
Once again, I think the other thing is I have a distinct suspicion that the hypnotic part of this is something that they learned from the SOE.
Okay.
You got me? That these techniques were something that I have heard that these courier types especially were definitely used already by the British all throughout World War II and possibly going back to World War I.
Yeah. Yeah. Digitizing consciousness, sign me up. Oh, no. Yeah.
Hey, look, you can make a copy of me, but it ain't me.
They got these robots now that look like pine nuts that can season themselves. So I don't know if you saw the video. But they're reproducing. It's frog juice or whatever.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's very freaky as hell. We got robots that can reproduce.
If you're still here, Squidward, I know you said you had to go, but here's the thing. You could maybe make a reasonable copy of a conscious being. And let's say you could even put it in a human body with no hardware changes, right? Like it just, like you can make the copy happen, and then that person lives as a human with definitely everything we call human, right? Yeah. That's still not you, because there's no way to transfer the focal point of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's the bit you think of as you. You know, that's why digitization's just a big trick. If they tell you they're going to upload you, they're just going to put a helmet on you and then put you in a gas chamber, basically.
Teleporters in Star Trek?
Oh, yeah.
It just rewrites you?
Yeah.
It's like, did the first you die the first time you went through
I'm a firm believer that the first you is obliterated and is just gone. And
right?
The copy has no clue.
Your Bones about it, baby. Mm-hmm. Bones hates using that fucking transporter, dude. Yeah.
No, that's one thing I loved about Bacula Trek is that they hated using the transporters and they just shuttlecraft in everywhere. I was like, good move.
You get a scene every time where they're like, jail! Or whatever.
I think they didn't use the transporters specifically so they could put those scenes in.
Yeah, they're like, let's get some skin.
They had, what's her name that's not Angelina Jolie playing the Vulcan?
Who doesn't even look like Angelina Jolie when she's not in that role is what's weird.
Yeah, not
like,
even a
little
little bit.
Her look like Angelina Jolie for that role. Weird flex Star Trek Enterprise. The worst intro song for any of the Star Trek series. It's been a copyright.
I love how I watched all of it. I can tell you that halfway through on season 3, they give it a key shift and change. It's the same song, but now it's darker and grittier to reflect how they went from being like, let's explore, to, oh my god, lizard Nazi space-time terrorists.
I don't think so. There's a dark intro, and then by the end of it, they're like, we're going to try to reduce the amount of lyrical content. In the intro,
I don't remember any of the words. Just
it's been a long time getting from there to here.
Oh god,
it's bad. It's a bad intro song.
Look, here's the thing: Scott Bakula should have ended that run with a scar and an eye patch.
Man, they do this thing where it's tied into this like temporal Cold War, but then they carry on the temporal Cold War into the video game Star Trek Online.
Right.
And I like that. But it's one of those things where it's like they've retconned Enterprise into being cool.
Well, you've got to understand that when I watched that show, I was just turning my brain off. Like,
yeah, you're
not getting Next Generation feels from me. I'm
No,
Yeah. Hey, I like TNG. I have to be honest. I prefer Deep Space Nine. I think TNG is probably the better show.
Look, it's got award-winning writers. It's the one that gets the budget. But if you want the dark, gritty, what it's like to be, if you want the DS9 is, the absolute worst theme song.
You remember I brought up the whole Desi connection and then going after Desi Arnaz?
Mm-hmm.
I thought of something else. J. Edgar Hoover said he loved fucking Lucy.
Dude, you know they got Nicole Kidman playing fucking Lucy in the new Lucy? Dude?
But in 1936, Lucy was registered to vote as a communist.
She was rounded up in the Red Scare.
She was, and she said, no, it's not me.
The only thing red about me is my hair.
And she said she did it because her grandfather was a huge supporter of Eugene Debs.
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
Now, I'm going to tell you right now.
Weird.
Doesn't mean that Lucy's not the dyed-in-the-wool capitalist she claimed to be at that point, or that she was a communist. But she still allowed her grandfather to organize, and apparently even as late as 1973, socialist organizers used her house, though she wasn't there.
See, I think the CIA had CIA or the FBI.
So I think that they pushed her back. I think that she started off probably being like, yeah, of course, communism makes sense. It's 1938, and we're in the middle of the fucking depression. I think she moved over toward capitalism, and I think that them coming down on her probably pushed her back. So
they wired her mouth for sound, in my opinion. She was one of the early people to have the talks on talk shows where she explained that she picked up radio signals.
Yeah,
She's wired for sound because they thought she was a communist.
Yep.
In that, I go back to Leonard Kyle.
No, I suspect Lucy might be an early version of that. She always said, when people asked why she was so popular, she'd say, "I don't know, I'm not funny."
Yeah. See, it's weird. I will say Mads Mikkelsen. They say everybody, I guess fans approach him and are like, "You're really scary in the Bond film," and he's like, "Really? You think so?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "All I'm really doing is playing poker."
Yeah, but you're Mads Mikkelsen.
He just doesn't get that he's intimidating. I've known people who just don't get that.
Dude, Mads Mikkelsen is a perfect casting for a Bond villain.
Yeah, he really is. You could put a Minster scar on him and he could play Otto Skorzeny even. You just crimp that hair a little bit.
Absolute worst theme song. The changes just. I didn't say it got better. I just said it got darker.
It got worse. It's been
No. To say it got worse would mean that the first one was better, and they're equally shit.
Yeah. They owe us a theme song for that series.
Yeah, you need to retcon me a real theme song.
Yeah,
with no words,
none.
And a horn section.
We definitely don't need the singer from the Seventh Heaven theme song.
Right?
I'm pretty sure it was the same guy that did
that's the feel I got off of it.
I think it was the same guy. It's the same composer. And he's known for just being alone. He put shit like that in his music. It's weird. He's known for that. You get him to do Seventh Heaven or I don't know. Whatever. Some religious Christian content,
Oh man.
But let's round this sucker down.
Hold on. I know we've been on for about 2 hours, but real quick, if you'll
I forgot about the sources.
Let's hit some of these sources, and we're gonna go out on a fucking miserable note.
No. Here's the web browser you use. Grab your sources, load them up into this daddy. It'll show on the screen, baby.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, snap. Actually, if you just want to switch to this because you've already got it pulled up, go over here to Discord. Boom. In the screen share.
Where is it? Here?
Yeah. Well, down there at the bottom, see the little X on the monitor?
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, just hit that.
It says stop streaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now hit it again. Now choose that one.
Okay.
There you go.
And then go. Okay.
Boom, and then click it again so it's big for the people. Bam.
All right. Here, all these things I'm about to show you are linked in the description. So we've got a news article on Heyman.
Ooh.
We've got an independent report here. where they were talking about how
And you don't have to breeze through these, by the way. I wasn't actually trying to round down the show. I'm down. I forgot about the sources. Let's know.
Oh, well, like some of these you may have to register for. I'm not hooked up for that over on here.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying, but they are out there. I'm sure you can find a way there if you're clever.
Yeah.
Here also, this is also on iicsa.csa.org.uk. We have a report on Heyman and others from Scotland Yard. This is miserable to read through.
But juicy facts behind Pi and all that. Yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah, it discovered Henderson was a member of Pi. So you can look into these.
And a very good evening. Sky News can reveal that a top British diplomat was the man at the centre of a secret government file about his unnatural sexual behaviour.
Sir Peter Heyman, who died in 1992, was the subject of the paperwork prepared for the attention of Margaret Thatcher when she was Prime Minister. So it sounds like he died and nothing happened. Which focuses on allegations of him as a child abuser. Tom Parmenter has tonight's exclusive report.
After being held for 35 years by officials at the heart of Westminster, the Cabinet Office has finally released Thatcher's secret file. It names Sir Peter Heyman, a top British diplomat and someone who once...
Hey, check out them eyebrows.
What the fuck?
Got them Aquino cult daddies.
Yeah,
looking like a mentat,
dude.
Not saying that having eyebrows like that is significant in and of itself, saying that it is correlated to a series of people.
I think it says something about your character type, for sure.
Worked for MI6.
We're looking at Prem 19, but if we do an advanced search...
This is the guy who discovered the file.
University lecturer Chris Murphy who stumbled across the file and alerted Sky News. It has now been released to the National Archives. Its full title, revealed for the first time, is Prem 19588, Security. Sir Peter Heyman, allegations against former public official of unnatural sexual proclivities. Security aspects. It was prepared for the then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and the existence of the document that has the potential to throw new light on the current child abuse inquiries.
It was raised in the comments.
The revelations by Sky News yesterday about the document were significant and illuminating, and there's a clear public interest in knowing whether a former Prime Minister received a briefing on sexual crimes committed by a senior intelligence officer or officers.
Let's move on just a little bit.
Whoa. There it is in the news.
Here we have it again on The Independent.
Tory MP, yeah. That's not... Okay, yeah. There's the actual reporting on the Heyman stuff.
Right? This isn't anything we really hear about over in the U.S.
Sir Peter Heyman is named by an MP as the diplomat whose
the people who research these things will have come across it and might understand that there's a link to a tenuous link, distant link to our security services or just NATO's security services.
In two parliamentary questions tabled by Conservative MPs,
I mean, guys, this is 40, 50 years old. But
they asked if Sir Peter was to be prosecuted for sending pornographic material through the mail.
But
if security implications raised by his diaries will be investigated.
Whoa.
They're due to be answered in writing tomorrow. But Liberal leader Mr. David Steele voiced what appeared to be the feelings of many members of the House when he suggested to the Speaker that this use of parliamentary privilege was a very dubious precedent. Gavin Hewitt has been looking at the background to the questions.
Yeah, this was the news report I was reading from
Peter Heyman on the Commons order paper will inevitably raise questions as to whether a man with a distinguished career in the diplomatic service could have become a potential target for blackmail. In the 1950s, he served on the British delegation to NATO. By 1964, he was deputy commandant to the British military government in West Berlin. By 1970, he was submitting his credentials to the Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau as the new High Commissioner, a post he remained in until he retired in 1974. 2 years ago, Sir Peter appeared on the television programme Mastermind. He had listed his recreations as shooting, fishing and travel. He's a member of the MCC and 2 London clubs, the Army and Navy and the Travellers.
He doesn't have those big
He's also
1981 daddies
International
there.
Student House.
Yeah, the eyebrows.
Police were led to Sir Peter's London flat after they found a package of pornography which had been left on a bus. From material discovered at the flat, the police prepared a case which was forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Sir Thomas Hetherington. He decided against prosecution because there was no question of financial gain or sending material to people who didn't want it. Tory MP Geoffrey Dickens said that one of the reasons he had named Sir Peter in Parliament was to remove the possibility of future blackmail. The wisdom of such action hasn't been shared by all MPs. Sir Peter Hayman lives at a Georgian house in the village of Checkenden in Oxfordshire. He's married with a son and a daughter and is said by relatives to be away on a motoring holiday in the south of France. Both he and his wife were active in the community.
Trying to get down to the part of France where I can get on a boat to North Africa.
Sir Peter in Parliament has left people in
where my
disbelief.
Nazi bodies are.
Both he and his wife were regular churchgoers, Sir Peter being a sidesman until he resigned recently.
Well, I think in any community, do we really know our neighbours? But I think within the community, Sir Peter was a man who was very well liked and, you know, contributed very much to the community.
How was he regarded in the village?
Well, I think he was well liked, and his wife with him, and they together both joined in, you know, many village activities.
There was considerable concern in the House of Commons today about the naming of Sir Peter. Tory MP Cyril Townsend said, if he's committed any offence, the law must take its course. If not, he should not be hounded by politicians.
You'll note this video has 372 views.
Names about in the chamber, which would create a very dangerous precedent. The Speaker replied that he had studied today's order paper with special care because of the publicity there had been.
The House is also aware that the privilege of free speech and protection which we enjoy in this House is our most cherished possession. It's the one that gives real significance and power to this House. And therefore there is a special obligation on us all to make sure that we never abuse that privilege. The questions referred to by the Right Honourable Gentleman were technically in order. Otherwise, they would not have appeared on the order paper. And I can really say no more.
There's been no word from Sir Peter Hayman direct today as regards his attitude to what's occurred in the House of Commons. His solicitor...
I just want to stop.
Yeah.
Did you hear that snow job?
That was insane. Like... we got free speech. It's a thing we enjoy, and I'll say no more.
Yeah. Yeah, his questions were technically in order. That's all I have to say.
That's disgusting. It's like the whole injustice is all I can think about. Like there's a hole where justice should have fucking happened, and it starts here, and then we just watched a news fucking from modern day.
That's the British House, Squidwin. He had just gotten back from serving in Canada for 4 years.
There is Sir David Napley, who was asked whether Sir Peter was aware of the events now surrounding him.
He is aware. He knows about it, because he's spoken on the telephone. He's abroad at the moment, but has spoken on the telephone.
Was he aware that this was going to be raised in Parliament, though?
Well, I don't think he... No, I'm sure he wasn't aware of that.
Has he any views about the way it has been done?
Well, I don't know what his views are, because I haven't canvassed them. I know what my views are. I think that naming him in the House of Commons was irresponsible.
What?
And the reason I think it's irresponsible is this, that I've always understood, and I gather the Attorney General said so, that there's been a convention in Parliament that you do not accuse a person of criminal offences unless they have been prosecuted or unless his name has been disclosed in a public inquiry.
Well, they're all further give a black.
Well, now, I can well understand that there are circumstances in which it is necessary to raise matters in the House in public. But it is important to remember that in this case, a competent and responsible authority, knowing all the facts, such as they were, had decided that there shouldn't be a prosecution.
Whoa. He's got a point there.
So here's the 79 to 99 set of file review from HN Review and Customs Investigator from April 2013. It's also on iicsa.org.uk.
Whoa.
That talks about how we couldn't find the files, but hey, we found a bunch of stuff that might be related.
Yeah.
Here's a story on The Guardian about the former royal butler being jailed of child abuse, Paul Kidd.
Earlier this year, Paul Kidd, who's 55 and from Stalybridge, had pleaded guilty to 29 offences, including indecent assault and sexual activity with children. He also admitted having more than 18,000 indecent images of children on his computer. The catalogue of abuse spanned 3 decades, some of them while he was serving in the royal household as a senior footman to the Queen Mother. Following today's sentencing, one of Paul Kidd's victims has spoken anonymously about the effect the abuse had on him.
He's just a sick man that doesn't deserve any feelings towards him at all. If I started feeling anger towards him or anything like that, or any sort of emotion towards him, then he's won. And he'll never beat me.
Whoa.
Never beat me. I don't feel anything for him at all.
Paul Kidd befriended his first victim back in 1973. At the time, Mr. Kidd was 20, and the abuse began the following year when the boy was 14. During the period of abuse, Kidd even took the boy to a royal tea party at Clarence House and introduced him to the Queen Mother as a friend. Kidd met his next victim in 1981. Again, the boy was 14 years old when the abuse started. The most recent
about a decade
period of abuse
afterward,
began in
about a decade after.
2005. Once again, the boy was 14 years old. Also being sentenced alongside Paul Kidd was his friend David Hobday, who's 57. Kidd had taken one of the victims to Hobday's house and told the boy to perform a sex act on Hobday. But the judge made clear that it was Paul Kidd who was the driving force behind the abuse.
I must admit that this is the worst one I've ever dealt with personally. It's the levels of abuse that they've been subjected to are horrific over a period of 30 years that we know about. He's used many different mediums to contact his victims, Paul Kidd, and obviously he's shared at least one victim with another person that we know about, and I've got no doubt in my mind there are more out there.
In passing sentence, Judge Coker said this was a planned, systematic abuse of victims over a period of 32 years.
Yeah.
He said to Paul Kidd, "You're someone who's dangerous. You manipulated their feelings and you present a risk to all young people who you may come across." For that reason, he passed an indeterminate prison sentence for public protection, meaning Paul Kidd will only be released when he's considered to be no longer a risk to society and will serve a minimum of 6 years behind bars. His co-defendant, David Hobday, who participated in the abuse against one of the victims, was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
3 years and 6 years.
That's bullshit. The motherfucker committed way heavy. I mean, like, what we got here?
This also on ICSA from 83. Brief between the Home Secretary and Jeffrey Dickens on the PIE.
Whoa, Magpie.
Here we have The Magpie, a magazine run, or they're showing you what it looks like, run by PIE.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Here we have a report on the BBC. This has the grossest thing right here. You want to get that?
Oh, yeah. This motherfucking negligent,
Hold on just a second, y'all.
negligent neighbor don't know how to...
Damn, sorry, y'all. The dog's trying to censor us.
He's still out of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Would you not think that most adults would...
Somebody come get that dog!
These are the people involved in the PIE. You can find it on the article linked to the BBC site below.
Would you not think that most adults would feel that a developed consideration for children would involve leaving children alone sexually to find their own way for themselves with their own peer groups and not with adults?
Yes, I would be all in favour of children finding their own way sexually, but I think also that adults have a part to play because children are one part of the whole society. It isn't the society where we separate children from adults.
What do you feel?
I feel that PIE is not a procurement agency for children, never has been and never will be. Our political objectives include developing a society where children are given a much higher status than today, where they are recognised as individuals in their own right.
Fuck off.
And this includes recognising
just
their
wait.
right to certain sexual freedoms, whilst protecting them from the kind of criminal assaults which took place in Brighton.
But surely it's a question of recognising children's maturity, and how can you have an equal relationship, which is what I take a mature sexual relationship to be, between an adult and a child who is not mature in body, in mind, or personal awareness? It has to be unequal.
I don't accept that this concept of maturity at all. Adults, for instance, aren't necessarily mature. It's a long process.
Well, I take it for granted that no adult is probably ever mature, but nevertheless, my state of maturity, or your state of maturity, is clearly different from that of a child of 12. How can there be an equal relationship which allows of sex?
He just said 12, and I want you to remember, they weren't saying 12, they were saying 4.
Oof.
Like, yeah, this is really hard for me to watch because I started crying over it the first time.
Which is usually a shocking experience for everybody at some time or another. How can you allow of an equal relationship between two people so unequally positioned at the starting off point?
Well, I don't accept that sex is a spontaneously shocking experience.
What I'm saying is, at some stage or other, there is an element of shock in sex.
Not if children are properly educated about sex, and it's an obligation on society to see that children are given a far more comprehensive sexual education from a far earlier age.
But in that case, they find it out, they discover this with people of their own age and in their own time. And it is the question of inequality, which I come back to, which I think you haven't answered.
Indeed, by your lights, the relationship is unequal in the same way that a teacher-child relationship is unequal, in the same way that a parent-child relationship is unequal.
The teacher is not exploiting the child's sex.
And nor is a pedophile. Pedophiles do not exploit children.
Child molesters are using the child's
Yeah, you fucking do.
No, pedophiles do not use a child's sexuality. Pedophiles develop a mutual sexuality with the child. It's an entirely reciprocal relationship.
But you can't say that because of this business of immaturity and the inequality of the relationship.
Yes, but the definition of maturity is yours. We don't share it.
Well, what is your definition of maturity in this context? Now, how can a child of 12 make a mature judgment about something like sex for the first time, which it has not the first idea about, and cannot possibly weigh the consequences of it?
You're imputing to a sexual relationship heavy judgmental issues which
no, I'm not. I'm talking about the
intrinsic.
physical and psychical response.
Yes. A child is able to recognise a pleasurable experience. He is able to recognise a pleasing emotional experience. He is able to express consent and to recognise that this is something he wishes to continue. And a responsible, caring pedophile it always refers to the wishes of the child.
So I want you to remember that they explicitly mentioned they had a political motivation. Moving on, Worcester News. Crime files. Police catch spy who molested girls. 4,000 files. Back on IICSA inquiry. Westminster minutes. Monday, 4 March 2019. Wanting to know what's going on with those dossiers.
Whoa. Mr. Jeffrey Prime.
HansardMillibankSystems.com. From their internal notes.
Members of the Federal Information Exchange Organization was brought to the attention of police security agencies. Oh my god.
The Children of God rapists that happened at the end that were tied to some of the things talked about in the Dickens dossier. I have not tied them directly to PIE. I will say it is almost certain they ran in the same circles.
Man.
Colin Peters. Links to the Barnes scandal. Jeez. This is on the Independent. '19 independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Witness statement of Neil Jerome, also on IICSA. Having to do with the Elm Guest House when they found Leon Britton there and had to end surveillance.
Cool.
And that's all the gross documentation for today.
Good Lord. Yeah, that one had me, you got the indigestion going.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hit the hella happy face. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, that clip of the people in PIE should let you know the types of people that they are willing to at least utilize as witting or unwitting agents.
Yeah, the people that government is willing to rub shoulders with for a period of time and then even defend in the news.
Yeah, was Paul Kidd tied directly to them? Nope, just tied to the royal house in a position of astounding access.
But it's that era, that time, that place.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing he's not attached to that network, or at least received information that they're talking about exchanging from them.
The only reason I could see to not be super upset with Thatcher is that Thatcher was hoping to find some way to trace it back and figure out who to route out within the royal house itself.
Word.
Like, and I'm not trying to make excuses, trying to understand.
I wouldn't put it past Thatcher to put it in her back pocket and try to use it to tear down the royal family.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, she's one of the first prime ministers to like take the queen's position during like a military parade.
Yeah.
After the what the fuck was it? Anyway, yeah, that. Oof.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, I'm not in a position to defend anybody. Just trying to come up with a concept where that's not the most horrible.
Yeah. Oof, today's spicy.
Yeah, guys, and I told you it'd be a miserable one.
Yeah, it's a rough one. And there's a lot just, you know, I can't even, that was one of the gross, you know, and I've seen interviews like that before where you have, like, in my era, it was those NAMBLA pieces of shit.
Yeah, which I'm sure are tied to the same thing. You know who was a happy member of NAMBLA? Allen Ginsberg.
Oh, that's right.
Andrea Dworkin said it was not a free speech thing.
No, hell no, it's not. Well, no, you can read enough of Allen Ginsberg's later poetry to absolutely confirm it wasn't a it wasn't a free speech thing. Ginsberg, I'm sure, you know, if you guys don't know, Google.
Yeah, really weird to me that David Cross was willing to play Ginsberg, because it's not like that information's not out there. And if you like him so much you want to play him, you must know about him.
You must know about him. And there is during the peak of the Me Too stuff, you know, nothing really stuck on him, but I will say some young ladies just seem to not like him for some reason.
Yeah.
A lot of young actresses seem to not like working with that guy. I don't know what it is. I'm not throwing any shade at him. I'm just saying it's a commonality I've noticed. No accusations. I don't, you know, other than the lady, he was racist. In a particularly what sounds like to me a coked up drunk moment.
Yes. That seems like it's likely the most accurate way to describe that.
Yeah, like there's, you know, and maybe he wasn't at the time, maybe he's just the type of personality that, you know, there's no filter of reading a room, he just pops in and says some crazy shit about, you know what I mean? Like maybe he thought, I don't know. But it is weird that he wanted to play Ginsberg, and Ginsberg is a weird cat whose morals and sexual preference everyone knows is just gross. You know what I mean? Like he was predacious in his behavior.
And was the person that the media establishment really, through probably a controlled counterculture media establishment, hailed as the voice of a generation.
Like, They still celebrate the places he would read his poetry in New York, you know what I'm saying?
It makes a lot of that 70s rock star pedophilia
make a lot of fucking sense.
Put in context of what they had been told was normal.
Well, it's a really interesting thing that you brought up, the Bob Dylan biopic where David Cross plays Allen Ginsberg in that cameo, because they're at a big musical event.
Yeah.
And he's there hanging out with specifically rock stars.
Yeah.
So many of them, he's being golf carted back and forth to them.
Yeah, because it was a huge status thing to be around him.
Yeah. Which is
going to lead to a lot of people to accepting whatever crazy shit he's spouting because of
feels like in
status.
How many rock stars has Jimmy Savile been in a room with? All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Rodney Bingenheimer.
Yeah.
Rodney Bingenheimer's English disco.
Everybody but my man's John Lydon.
Right.
Shout out Pill. I'm not shouting out the Sex Pistols. Public Image Limited, all fucking day. I'd take that over the Sex Pistols anytime.
John wants to know, is the prince that was friends with Epstein mixed up in this? Not directly, but what we're talking about absolutely goes into the royal house.
It's got to rub shoulders with them.
Like, that's the thing. There seems to be indications of an organized network that even involve potentially people within the actual palace.
Yeah.
Just workers there.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It had to have rubbed shoulders with Maxwell. It had to have. Maxwell knew about it. He was there. We saw an old BBC.
You can be certain that in the era he was running guns, he was doing it to provide money to the British government.
We know he had a network of guns going back and forth. So you know, if you're looking for a place where there might be a highway to smuggle something.
Look, whenever you've got an empty plane, you're supposed to fill it so you can make the money.
That's what I'm saying.
So wherever you dropped off the guns, you're picking up something.
And there's stuff there that like that Lolita magazine.
Dude, yeah, no, I like that's one of those things that I don't plan on doing much research on. I'm going to get the names associated with it, and you guys can look it up. I don't want that shit on my fucking computer.
Yeah. Hard topic to look into. But look, you've got cocaine. Drugs.
Yeah, I'm sticking with major, like, normally available media sources, guys.
We've talked about international means of smuggling a lot of different things on this particular program. Narcotics, hallucinogens included, particularly hallucinogens, firearms, and now this.
A plane full of guns can bring back a plane full of people.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're into human
like
trafficking.
we know that by watching the Afghanistan air base evacuation.
And let's say we're not even going full into human trafficking. You know what can fit on these fucking planes? Issues of magazines.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Which was a form of underground currency.
Yeah, because
just like narcotics and firearms.
Exactly. Most of these people aren't wanting payment in money because then they'd have to launder it. They want payment in contraband that they can go ahead and flip through their channels of flipping contraband.
Yeah, this is the role of this to the government.
Yeah.
This is an underground currency they're arbitrating, or it's also a means to control your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know, because you know he's going to buy that shit.
Yeah.
You know he's into Dogecoin or whatever the fuck ever. Just trying to parallel it with currencies. So it's kind of maybe I'm doing that for myself emotionally. Don't worry about it. I'm trying to make these like analogs where it's like, okay, this is why they're using it. It's because
no. Like, well, that's how you have to understand it. Is that level of disassociation where you're like, okay, well, how do they use these networks? Like, they're using them for horrible things, but how do they use them?
Yeah. And special guest to tell you, I'm kind of an exploit thinker. I try to think of, when I get resources, how can I exploit the situation to get the most gain and the most yield out of the situation?
Squidwin says, for sure, I think that's how Epstein met Ghislaine. I have printed everything from her case because it won't last long online, in my opinion. You're probably not wrong. I've definitely seen some stuff get memory old.
I wonder.
And Prince Andrew's way connected. I would say yes.
What if while he was, let's say Maxwell on this plain highway of contraband.
Mm-hmm.
He takes Epstein under his wing. We know for the gun part, right? What if Ghislaine is handling the pie part?
Well, no, that doesn't seem unbelievable to me at all.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of like where Squidward was going with that.
Yeah.
And it would kind of track with her, just the way she is.
Well, here's
she
the thing.
uses those means.
Like for her, it's not even procurement per se, though it might be. Like, I think a lot of it might be
and getting them ready.
Well, I think we know, we're pretty sure that's what's happening. But no, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Then what's going on is her, the planes come back with people.
Yeah.
You got me? And those people have to then be put into the underground economy.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, what do you do with the staff of those planes if they're not military and aren't asking questions?
The staff of those planes are military.
Oh, that's what you meant by people was like actual humans being trafficked. Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, no,
I still haven't added
the planes coming back with a bunch of people who are then being sold to gangsters.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Ugh. Fucking rough. This is how in Southside Chicago you end up with so many Russian prostitutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Fucking weird.
Mm-hmm. No, that's the classic Asian massage parlor thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's human trafficking. God. Like they took a bunch of contraband from here to over there and came back with a bunch of humans for over here.
So great. Like, yeah, it's again, trying to think like somebody who exploits resources. It's a resource you can exploit. If you're a government, you have planes. Let's say you have planes. Who's planes? Government, Air Force. We know for a fact there's some shit like Ollie North shit going on. There's cocaine smell. There's, Contra shit that happens.
Look, nobody involved in cocaine is not involved in human trafficking.
Gotta also be, right? There's more space on that plane for more stuff.
Like, not high up. I'm not talking about street dealers.
Yeah. And what do you tell the crew? Nothing. Don't look at it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you tell them to count their money.
Refugees, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Take the envelope and shut the fuck up. Damn.
Well, no, you want to see them try, like Mel Gibson and Robert Downey Jr., Air America.
Oh yeah.
What happens in that? They unload a bunch of guns to rescue a bunch of people. Nah, the real story is they delivered a bunch of guns and picked up a bunch of folks that were then moved somewhere else.
They traded guns for like some humans.
Yeah, that's really what's going on. And oh wait, who was involved in Air America? Marion Petty's son.
That's right.
Marion Petty, who was the head of the Founders, who he claimed was an off-books intelligence agency he'd been running since the late 30s.
Air America and the Founders. The Founders obviously trafficked.
Yeah, Petty wasn't involved in it, but his wife worked for the CIA. And his son worked for Air America, which is basically working for CIA.
It seems like to me one of the sad truths we're about to reach, probably by the end of the next episode. Just an assumption I'm making, not an assumption, a theory I have, is it sounds like at a certain point the United States saw humans being traded as such a commodity that these stay-behind groups we started making, a few of them, that was their express purpose.
Yeah.
Was not just aggregating and getting new humans, making new humans to put into the trade.
The Dutroux affair?
Like, because the Founders, they are children that were born into it.
The Dutroux affair, in this case, seems like it was a procurement thing that was tied directly to these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Except it was run through a group called, like, S88 or something, or G88.
Yeah.
Which was that stay-behind army's name.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was tied to that. It was tied to all the criminal enterprises in Belgium, basically. And to this guy who was a human trafficker, like a human child trafficker, who had like 10 houses and a bunch of other shit.
See,
dude, it got so bad, and the cover-up was so obvious. 500,000 Belgians took to the street in the 90s over it. It was a big deal. That's why I'm like, well, I guess I don't want to, but I'm gonna have to get to that.
Yeah, see these stories of mass human trafficking and things like that. But it seems like to me, again, I feel like there must have been a couple of these culty things that were, maybe that wasn't what they were supposed to be in the inception, but by the end of it, the children were ending up getting trafficked.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Order of the Solar Temple was involved up in Montreal.
Sounds like it because of Trudeau.
Yeah.
Pierre Trudeau, you know what I mean? Like,
well, under the Trudeau era, it seems like a lot of this craziness was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody in the U.S. Security establishment felt that Trudeau was basically a communist sympathizer, and so you could be certain that NATO would have its agents and operations all throughout that.
NATO, the CIA, and the FBI might put a fucking filling that it's a piezo pickup in your fucking mouth. You know what I'm saying? They might pick up the whole room from you for forever back then, if you think you're a communist.
Yeah.
They might give you the Lucille Ball special.
Yeah.
They might give you the I Love Lucy special, dude. Which, goddamn. Well, you want to end firmly on a fuck the government sentiment?
Yeah, pretty much at this point, that's how I'm feeling.
Hell yeah.
Like, do better.
Do better, government. You don't have to use repugnant ideology. You don't have to worry about stay-behind groups.
Yeah. There's a better way, I'm sure of it.
There's 1,000 better ways, and you should really apply yourself better.
Yeah, and even if you had to, you don't have to have them involved with people like PIE.
Use our resources and our tax dollars better, please.
Please.
Please say it. Use it, please. Please.
Oh.
All right. Oh, Well, again, thank you guys. It's special guest. I'm Merc. This has been the Tattered Map, episode 5, y'all. We're really cracking into some episodes, baby.
Trying to.
Damn straight. See you guys later.